Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Welcome back to the Soul Tribe Podcast, everybody. We have such an amazing episode for you all today, and we were lucky enough and honored to interview and to have on our podcast Foster Perry. And it feels very different from the other interviews because we really have just his energy here. And he talks a lot about his path and shamanism and what that's meant for him and how that's kind of evolved through his life. And it's such a beautiful story, and it's such an amazing opportunity to get this look into his life and what he's been through. And what an amazing healer he is. So I think this episode's great for anybody that's first wanting to know a little bit more about Foster, but also anybody that's on this shamanic journey or on the spiritual journey and kind of showing you these ups and downs and these transitions, and just to help you see how everybody's path is so different. And during this episode, we really talk about so many things. It is a long one, so I would definitely recommend anybody that's driving, this is great because you can have somebody there talking to you. But if you're at home, maybe you're cleaning, maybe you grab a cup of coffee, because there's so much info. And I'm sure you guys are going to want to listen to this episode more than once. This will also be on YouTube. So if anybody's interested in watching it there, you can actually see him. I'm going to just give kind of a side note here. There were some technical difficulties with, I think, his connection. So there's moments where his voice kind of comes in and out. I think everything's pretty understandable. We were able to understand everything, but we just want to give that kind of warning because you might find that his voice comes in and out. We did this on Zoom, so yeah. Other than that, we get into so many topics, it's hard to really say and describe everything right here, but we do get a lot into his shamanic journey, what shamanism is, to talk a little bit about, this whole pandemic and COVID thing and the energy, and a little bit of that towards the beginning and the end of the episode. But also we get into extraterrestrials, tribes, how the energy has really kind of, been on his path as well, how he's experienced that. 'Cause I know that Christos talked a lot about, extraterrestrials in his episode, so I think he gave his take on that as well, because he's had some really cool and really interesting experiences that I think it would be great for you guys to hear. And a lot more, guys. I'm not gonna blab on too long here, but I really do hope you guys enjoy this episode, and we want to thank Foster for coming on. As always, we appreciate you so much, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and sending you guys a big hug.
Yeah, well, we've had you guys on so many times, so I don't even think you need an intro. But I will intro you. Foster Perry is here with us today. We're very excited. The idea is to talk about everything under the sun, but mostly you wanted to talk about kind of life after lockdown, right?
Yes, we can talk about life after lockdown. We can talk about anything you want.
Shamanism.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked. I remember our first episode ever, and maybe our second too. We talked a little bit about shamanism. You got a little bit into it. I remember talking about ayahuasca and a bunch of other things, but maybe we can go a little bit deeper into that, because I think it's a fascinating topic that maybe people need to learn things about.
Yeah, for South America especially. South Americans are more attuned to plant substances.
Yeah.
Much more than North America.
Yeah. So we were actually, just so everybody knows, we were actually talking about extraterrestrials and a bunch of other stuff, and I wasn't recording. So, So I'd like to just kind of give you the mic and just whatever you feel that you need to say to everybody today. because you haven't been on here in a while.
Yeah.
Well, we've been through this kind of near-death experience, one of the changes. But these changes happen, periodically. 1820, 1920, you have a pandemic. So we had another one. But this is the smaller one. So there is a larger one coming.
I keep hearing that, and I kept feeling that something's going to get worse, but I couldn't really put my finger on it.
Well, you have to adapt. That's the most important thing. Everything is changing. So can you adapt to these changes? Now, why is it changing? Well, the planet wobbles on its axis. There are all sorts of issues with the way that the Earth moves. There are issues that are magnetic that are going on now. Right now we have plants that are blooming in the winter. Where I live now, it gets almost to 128 degrees in the summer. So it's incredibly hot. And it's never been recorded so hot. So we know that the planet is out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that most people on the planet haven't changed their ways. They haven't really understood that this planet, needs to be used in a way that we steward life, meaning you have to take care of animals, number one. I think there is more of a consciousness now of love for animals, taking care of animals, because animals for Native Americans, animals are more evolved than us. They have been here longer, and they are in fact connected to extraterrestrials. And how do we say that? Like, for instance, the ant people. There are two kinds of ant people. Some of them are like 3 feet tall. They look like kind of ants. They're a little transparent, by the way. They look to me like, too white to be an ant. But anyway, they're ants, like a termite. It's kind of, they look like that. And some of them are 12, like 12, 7 or 8 feet tall. Some of them are really, really tall.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know if you know all the different extraterrestrial groups. There's so many. Like when I was with the Hopi Indians, I had a friend who was adopted by the Hopi, Luke Gatto. I loved Luke so much. And we used to go there, and we used to stay with grandmother Carolyn or this man who went to the United Nations. They're very humble people. They're very lovely, the Hopi. And so you go with them to the fields and you help with the corn, because that's what they do. They grow corn. The whole society is corn, and they come from corn. They're born from cornmeal and blood. And so the creator, Masao, made this. It's a fantastic story, but we were in these fields and there were spaceships above us the whole time.
That's amazing.
Wow.
They were all transparent. You could see into them. So of course I'm, helping to plant corn, and, they sing to it's very beautiful what they do with the corn. They have prayers. They're always saying prayers in their language. But, no one was looking at these ships because they said, oh, that comes all the time. It's nothing new for us. I couldn't even pay attention.
Oh my
And
God.
all the people in the ships were blonde. I think that was the big shock for me. They were called the Nordics, or blonde people.
Oh yeah.
And they were tall and they were fun to watch, oh my goodness. And then finally one of them came as my student.
No
It's kind
way.
of a wild thing to have a student from another world.
That's
Lovely, lovely, lovely person. He was a in-between person, meaning he was like a hybrid.
Yeah.
And he was always telling me that everybody in these tribes who come from these different clans, who are given authority and leadership, all of them are hybrids. They all have one extraterrestrial parent and one human parent. And he was one of the blondes. He was super blonde,
Are
straight.
they aware of it?
He's aware of it. He was
Oh.
aware of it. But, it was a hard transition for him
Mhm.
because he had so many gifts and they needed to be trained.
Yeah.
And in the people that he lived with, they didn't train him properly. So he came to me and I just had to train him, to become like a ceremonial leader, to do the ceremony. I love that.
What kind
Okay.
of gifts do they have?
He,
Or him in particular, yeah.
they say that at the beginning there were hermaphrodites on Earth. The very first tribe, the 144,000, were hermaphrodites. And they are male and female in one body. And he had qualities that they talk about with the hermaphrodites, meaning they move very quickly. I know the hermaphrodites can move very fast. They are very akin to portals, to this idea of interdimensional travel, meaning making your body completely light and then translating that light into astral travel, meaning you step out of your body into your astral body, right? Then you can step out of your astral body into your mental body if you want to go to a mental realm. You imagine a color, for instance. What color would that realm be? What would I look like? You imagine it. And then, you can do a ritual, or you can go to a portal and you imagine all that, or you do it in your house, because if you do it in your house, you make a vortex out of yourself. That's what a ritual is. You're making a vortex. So then you can raise your frequency, and then you imagine all that and you go there because you've really prepared. Like if you want to go to Venus, you make the whole room green, emerald green. I do that. I love to do this. And everything is green. I am green, everything. And then I do a ritual in which I am invoking. First of all, I do a Solomonic ritual. I do like a banishing pentagram ritual if I want to do magic. If I want to do Indian work, I do something different. And then I do something called a hexagram ritual, which cleans the space. It's like makes it antiseptic. And then the middle part is I step into the ritual. I have it all planned. And I make a sigil, or I make like a doorway or whatever. I make a symbol. And then I invoke that realm. And I'm already in a heightened space, right? It's a magical kind
Of course.
space. And then you just go. Sometimes you
It
go.
makes it sound so easy.
Yeah.
Like you imagine an Einstein-Rosen bridge, right? You imagine a portal, which is an Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is a kind of wormhole. And you go through it. It's very quick. And all of a sudden you are traveling outside of your body, and you go to Venus. And you're still staying green. Everything is green. And then when you arrive there, you look like a Venusian. You don't look like yourself.
But you blend in.
Yeah, you have to, because if you're in their element, you can't, let's say I'm bringing a goldfish here. They're going to die if I don't make the whole environment water for them. So it's the same thing for me going there.
Right.
But do they know that they know who you are for real?
They know you're different. Oh yeah, they know you're different. They don't know where you're from. You have to tell them I'm from Earth. It's very funny.
Oh, poor you. What do they usually say?
Well, they have no idea why somebody would want to become that material.
Yeah.
Why? They've had other travelers, but it's odd for them that somebody wants to be this dense.
Right.
We are people who are warriors, who mainly came here to transform, right, this most material world, material itself, into something spiritual. That's what you're doing. You're raising the consciousness of matter.
So what happens to all those people that are like, sorry, like all those people that we say are still kind of very asleep or not aware of what's going on? Are they also warriors that you think they signed up to do this, but they got stuck on the way?
Well, I think things are going to happen. Like the Hopi talk about, there will be like an asteroid. It's called the blue star. And this blue star is coming from the Pleiades. It's like the last sister, the Pleiades. It leaves the Pleiades. It comes from behind the sun. It wraps around the sun first, and then it comes to the earth very close, and that shakes our world. And then the second time, it shakes our world more. So then we have a period. This is the Hopi prophecy, that it's black. You can't see the sun. It's really quite a wild time. And then you have basically 7 years to change.
Wow.
Wow.
Is that 7 years of dark?
Yeah, well, 7 years probably is for 3 days, definitely. I don't know how long it lasts. No one knows how long that will last. But we do know one thing, that you have 7 years to change all your ways. And that's the beginning of what we call the fifth world. That's when the purification comes in. Like people all talk about this blue Kachina and whatever. I even say there's no real blue Kachina. It just means that a blue star is coming. The Kachinas themselves are representatives of those spirits, the extraterrestrials that used to live with the Indians. You have to understand, they lived on Earth with the Indians. Like, lots of different Seneca, live next to the little people. The little people live in the serpent, the huge mountains like a serpent, and they live there. So extraterrestrials are very different than humans, and human beings get scared of them because of all the things they can do.
Yeah.
And they used to fight them, the Indians, and then slowly, slowly they realized, this is absurd. These people are much more advanced than us too, and we can protect them, like from other tribes, because they are quite vulnerable. And the Indians, what you have to understand, they bonded with the extraterrestrials much more than white people. Their culture, everything is interconnected. That's where they got their knowledge, and they were saved. Not all Indians are saved. Remember, a lot of them don't do ceremony and don't follow and don't, live on res or anything like that anymore.
Yeah, of course.
Very fascinating. So it's all of us. How do we change our heart? Do you follow the heart? That's what people say in shamanism. Because they say white people follow the arrow. It's like a straight line. That's the way they live. And we don't. We follow a circle. We see always the seasons and the circle of life and how all of us are interconnected. That's interconnectedness is one of the hallmarks of shamanism. Once you progress, you have a moment where everything is connected. And then comes other gifts. There are many gifts, like walking through walls. I met a shaman that I loved that was a Pueblo Indian. And, when I walked with him, he would just walk through the walls.
Oh my God, you saw this.
Yeah. So he was an adept. There's some Indians that are adepts. There are some white people who are incredible adepts. And occasionally, you'll meet one, like Christos was trained by one for 6 years, which is amazing to me. For me, when you meet an adept, they're immortals. You figure it out over time, like the way they talk. And, I love that Atlantean thing. If you meet an Atlantean, there's a pause 20 minutes before the hour. There's pause 20 minutes after the hour. Because this is when Atlantis fell into the ocean and people remember.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's kind of a deep thing. But it doesn't happen all the time.
I was going to comment that because I'm going back to the Nordic that was your student. It's funny because your image is like super like loving, right? Whereas if you like read the stories, they were considered brutal people, right? That's the back end of the story.
Extraterrestrials. This person was so gentle. Oh no. It was like very light kind of person. Strange though. Like,
do you think that's misinformation or someone's bad perspective that kind of wrote it down?
No, I think that we have to separate the Nordic people that live in, Scandinavia versus extraterrestrials. Very, very, very different.
It's different.
Completely different.
No, but there's stories of like Nordic, as in like not the Nordic people, but the Nordics that are those really big, blonde, really tall, and they're considered being giants, right? Like not a massive. Yeah.
But
and they say
a lot of them. Yeah. Remember, there are positive star people and there are negative ones.
Yeah.
Just like there are human beings. And certainly, I'm sure they invaded Iraq and everything because of Stargate. I'm sure there's somebody coming through a Stargate. And I'm sure they wanted to come. I'm sure it's more of an extraterrestrial. These things are normal. These things are always going on. I think that, this idea of not telling the public because, we're all going to panic. No, I think it's the end of religion. It's the end of religion. That's for sure. It's the end of old belief system, rewriting it.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. They have their own little cameras, in all these different portals. You have to understand, people have candles, like they film it. If you go to Diamond Head, I don't know if you've ever been there in Hawaii, on the very top of Diamond Head, there are cameras, everything. And extraterrestrials come at night and they film all that. If you go to Mexico, any of these Palenque or even temples, like we consider them minor, they're full of extraterrestrial activity at night. That's why they have to close it to make sure all the tourists leave. And if you talk, yes. And if you talk to the guards, they say yes. Every single night they come. And they have council. They all have meetings and they have council. It's normal. Insane. And when I was about 25, 26 years old, I went to a place called New Hope. It's an actual town in Pennsylvania. And these people had built an earthwork, like a beautiful earthwork into their hill, like a beautiful hill. And they had lots of land and whatever. And I was just sitting there outside. And he said, I've never seen an extraterrestrial. Oh, I said, that's not hard. So I just called the ship. I just said, and now they're going to come. And the ship came right within 5 inches of us. That's very close.
Wow.
Poor guy. I was at a
That's
heart
so
attack.
cool.
But he was happy. He was like,
Yeah.
that was needed, I believe.
That's
You
insane.
understand? And he
Yeah.
believed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
that's it's the energy, and it's like that thing of the perception, right? Of I can live in my own little bubble and believe what I want, be it religion or be it a structure or like in a box, right? And I'm not going to see outside of that. It's
Yes.
like you have to be open to receiving that information and receiving that insight, and that.
But look at me.
Yes.
I was somebody who, I had turned my back on so many things. And I was living in New York City. And I got hit by lightning. And the night before hit by lightning was the first moment I read a spiritual book again. It was really years. And somebody had given a garta. A garta is the planar earth. And it is connected to Shambhala. It is one of the cities of the inner earth. Because if you do extraterrestrials, there's also inner earth people. That means people from Lemuria, people from Atlantis, different extraterrestrial groups live inside the earth. They have their own pockets and holes and there's tunnels. There's a lot going on in the
Yeah.
earth.
Wow.
And there are portals down there. So
Yeah.
this book, I don't know what it is, but I started reading it all night, and that's what facilitated it. It was called Agartha Journey to the Stars. I don't know how I got this book, really. I walked into some store and I bought the book. And I just read it all night. And then the next day I got hit by lightning. The next day I woke up and there were 3 people in front of my bed. So I don't know what they are. They were just glowing shapes, right? They're glowing. They're not like solid. They're light beams. And they're standing in front of my bed. And that's the beginning of telepathy. That was my first experience, real high-powered, conscious telepathy. And they only talked that way. There was no speech. But what a download. You have to understand, because after that, I was never the same.
Yeah.
Of course.
I could
yes.
communicate telepathically. I could do things. And then I didn't want to speak anymore, also to people. Like I turned off the phones. I just said, that's it. And I had high frequencies, like I could hear frequencies. So I don't know what happened to me, but I didn't want to cut my hair. That's another thing that happened. And I started to braid my hair with leather, which is strange. Like I have very long hair now. I started to grow it. I would never cut my hair. And I started to look like an Indian. And I started to build medicine wheels, and I had no concept how to do this. I just started doing it.
That's insane.
So there is a connection between extraterrestrial and memory.
Of course.
So I think what they did was they activated my old shamanic memories.
Oh.
And I started to grow plants, and I started crystals for the first time in my life. I mean, I had maybe, I don't know how many, 300 crystals in this. Within, like, I'm talking about a few months. And I'm building things with copper wire, and it's unbelievable. And luckily, I had some money because I had been working, before that, so I could do all this. But I was young. I was 24, 25. And everything changed. And Indians started coming to me. I don't know what happened. The minute I walked out of my apartment, everywhere I went in New York City, Indians would jump off things, jump over cars. I mean, so full of life. There was a lot happening. And I started talking to them and hanging out with them. And I told them, I'm not really Indian. And they said, oh, no, I think you are. What res do you come from? And I couldn't say. I did nothing. I'm not from that. And they kind of helped me and initiated me. And I did a lot of sweat lodges, and I did a lot of things. They were building, skyscrapers. A lot of Indians build skyscrapers in Europe. So, because they can take the high heights. Amazing. They're not afraid. And then slowly, I said, that's it. I have to leave New York City. I went to Santa Fe. It was great. And while we arrived in Santa Fe, something happened to a woman. She was like attempted rape, and the man tried to murder her, actually. And she took her ring and put it in his eye.
Oh my.
And she ended up in the hospital. So I'm in a hospital now with her. And some friends of mine who are traveling with us. And that's how I met the shamans. Because she said, I want to meet these shamans in Santa Fe because I need to go somewhere after this. I need to find out why this happened to me on her birthday. It's her birthday? No, my birthday. We were going to celebrate my birthday. Anyway, so we ended up with these shamans, and that's when they put me into deep meditation. So I spent another 7 days, which I really enjoyed. 7 days in silence, doing a Vipassana meditation, very similar, and just, being attuned to everything. And they fed us and they read to us, and we prayed, and that was it. And then I slept there, and then I stayed with them for months and months, and that was the beginning of a 12-year training.
Wow,
Yeah.
12 years.
I mean, just
Yeah.
listening to that story is like, it had to happen that way.
And the fact that you didn't question it and you just like went with it. Most
yeah.
human beings like find that
beautiful.
really hard to do.
And I found problems with them, definitely. I met Celtic shamans, who were really, they had many problems with them, like a macho, he was a bit macho. He was a Marine commando. So he put me through hell. I had to do obstacle courses. I had to run up mountains, in like the top of a mountain in 55 minutes. So you're running and you're blindfolded. Then I had to do it blindfolded many times. Yeah, you have to do it blindfolded. You have to figure out where everything is. It's crazy. But
oh my God, I would have died in like one day.
No, they
Me
help
too.
you. You just throw me in the snow. Throw me in the snow. You have to do tumo breathing. They teach you the breath, like in Tibet, and you have to do it. Or you die. You're about to die. Even these obstacle courses, I'm telling you, you're almost dead by the end. And they're always moving rocks because you're always doing sweat lodges. So you have to find all these volcanic rocks and you have to like do, it's a lot of work.
How did
And
you feel when you were there? Like,
very alive, very
yeah.
different.
Oh.
Yeah. It was, at first I thought, is this a cult? I think it's a cult
Yeah.
because my father was always writing me, maybe you're in a cult. And I said, no, it's not. It's just them being trained and they're just very sweet. But, the training is hard. And, they're telling you stories. And so I had different teachers so I could compare over the 12 years. So that's kind of a nice thing. I hiked
That's
the
good.
Continental Divide. I hiked so many mountains. I remember one day we hiked 7 mountains in one day.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
always like, working and transforming, and you have to carry your own weight at the same time. They purposely make your backpack your weight.
Oh.
So it's not like I'm
Yeah,
just
no.
walking. It's really heavy. Thank
Oh.
God I was. And so we were always at places that were like 10 or 11,000 feet up, so that I could talk to the star people, or I could talk to, they called it El Elyon. El Elyon means the Most High God, the Father God. Or you could talk to the goddess, Hecate, or
Yeah.
whoever you believe the goddess. And every morning, you wake up before dawn, you have to greet the dawn, and you have to write down what comes to you. So they speak to you.
Yeah.
So you're always in the cycles of the seasons. You wake up before the dawn, you communicate, you're awake. You did ritual last night, where you did prayers and you did prayer sticks, you did all sorts of things. You used to go to Devil's Tower, that's not its real name, but that's what people call it. It's a place in Wyoming. And then I met Dawn Eagle Woman, and I did my vision quest with her, my main vision quest, on the top of a mountain. And this horse came, who was wild, like a really wild horse, and came right up to me and was kind of in love with me, and was just sitting there, like, just in my medicine circle, right at the edge every day, being with me. And that was my vision quest. He was a gray,
Wow.
like a very macho thing. And I changed after that. When
What was your plan to do after that? Like, did you know what you were going to do after that? Like,
I did after the
leaping.
vision quest. Yeah. Then I knew I had to go to certain sacred sites. So then I went to, I think it was about 300 sacred sites around the world. So then I started doing ceremony and ritual in different sacred sites. So I'd be in Scotland in this stone circle, or, they let me be in the center of Stonehenge in those days and gave it all to me so I could do ceremony. That was a wonderful time.
That's insane.
You go to the Orkneys, I went everywhere. I went to also Asia, to Buddhist temples, and, did ceremony. It was quite wonderful. And, I went everywhere. I would say most countries in the world. I did my journey through India, and then I Indians with Sarate, who was a Shavanshi, and then we went to Shingu. We went to different tribes, and I loved living with them. And then they had their own ceremonies, which are amazing.
So you're constantly learning, right? You're constantly absorbing also information during those times.
Those times, that was the training. It lasted 12 years. I changed completely, and then you have to do your service. You have to help. Don't worry. The whole time I was learning, I had to do healings on tribal members, and you're always called in the middle of the night to help somebody who has a disease or something. So you're kind of on the edge. Meeting Christos was kind of a break. You know, he said to me, "I don't like camping." Christos, I don't like being, you know. So all of a sudden I had to change. You know, and I had been asking all my life for. I want to meet somebody from the White Brotherhood. I want to meet somebody from the Brotherhood, Sisterhood of Light. I want to have a partner who is an equal, that you know, I don't want to be alone again, another life alone. And so when we met, which was, you know, it's a long time ago now, it's more than it's 18 years. I I changed completely. And you know, I slowly, I still was doing healings en masse around the world, but he was now in my life, and he likes the quiet together. So I built that with him. That
That's
changes
beautiful.
your heart, that changes you.
Yeah.
And that's good. That to me, your energy is a lot about adapting, like throughout
Mhm.
your whole life to whatever challenges or things that have come to you, which I think is such an important lesson for people now, like you were saying before.
Well, I came from a wealthy family who tried to give me everything, you know, the normal stuff, and I was not happy there. You know, I was always in the forest. They had like land, so I would always be in the forest. I had crazy experiences. It's called the wild hunt, where like these dogs were chasing me in the forest, and these people, like, you know, on horses. And I looked at them and I thought, this is not the same time period as I live in. You know, I'm in a different
Yeah.
time period, but I'm running for my life. And I realized that's called the wild hunt. That's Gwyneth Nud. I learned the Celtic way as well, and who they are and why all of a sudden was I falling into these different time periods. They were looking for dead souls. They were harvesting dead souls. I just happened to be in the way.
Mm.
So there's the question of birds as well. I have a long history in past lives with birds because as a shaman, one of my specialties was to know the language of birds. So that has always followed me all my life.
Aw.
Wherever we have lived, you know, birds will come. Like birds used to sit on my head as a kid. I had also had a pet bird who used to sit on my shoulder all
That's
the time.
cute.
Oh.
And I lived with birds, and they used to sing and come right up to me and start singing. And so I learned that that was part of my history. You know, people knew me from the birds. And the language of the birds was very important to me. So then I learned different codes because that's also a code. And I learned Hermetics then. And they have a whole idea of the language of the birds. I learned something um, from the Celtic tradition and before the Druid tradition. I like Druids. We went into you know, the bird ogums and the tree ogums. I've also loved trees. You know, trees. When I was a kid, I spent all my time kind of with the trees and speaking to trees and talking to trees for years, really. So I really believe that was the training. You know, that, and then the Indians kind of, you know, solidified it and made it more concrete. You know, this is what you do in life. So now I'm kind of, it's a strange life because I always want to do ceremony. I kind of always want to pray. I kind of always, and the only distraction I would say is television, media. You know, living in Los Angeles, everybody only talks about media. They only talk about, you know, did you see that show? And you
Yeah.
look at them like, if you haven't seen the show, that you can't relate to anybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everything is television here. You know, everybody spends so many hours in front of their phones and TikTok, and that it's hard to speak to anybody. So you get kind of caught up in that. You know, and if I
Yeah.
get caught up in that, I start to gain weight, I start to look different, I start not to do ceremony, and then you notice how things go out of balance.
Of course.
Is that part of, you think, what it's supposed to change? Obviously, right? We're supposed to bring in a new way of being, a new way of living.
And we have to make it our discipline.
Yeah.
And we have to still go about our day because people have kids and people have their lives, and have to still clean and do the laundry thing. But I have to do it with a different, I have to do it with anger. That's a big one. And you have to do it without like complaint. You have to learn not to complain. You go to countries where all your students complain about their lives and their husbands and their wives, and everybody complains. And in shamanism, you really can't do that. You have to take the high ground. If you have
How do you do that?
Well, if you have nothing to say, you don't say anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm a
I love
revealer.
complaining.
I love complaining too. That's like my
Chris
thing.
doesn't have to. Yeah. But you have to watch your thoughts, you see.
It's
This
true.
is all the development.
It's funny
And-
you said that cleaning thing, because today I spent 6 hours. You can tell Lorena because I complained to her about it. I cleaned the house for 6 hours, and I was like, the whole time I was just mad. Like,
Yeah.
this is stupid. Who invented dust and dirt? Like, what is this? 3D. I was like, this is
Exactly.
3D stupidness. What is this?
And it's going to last all your life. So you have to transform. You
Thanks.
understand? You have to see the longevity of it. Imagine if you become immortal. Like
Oh,
let's say I do every morning this meditation. It's a spiral meditation. Where you take the others. There's the original cell in your body, the mother cell, and that never leaves your body. And the 8 cells that come from that mother cell, right, is the beginning. When it divides into 8, that is the beginning of you, the first cellular division. But that first cell stays. So you can talk to that cell. And the way you talk to it is through a spiral. And the spiral is going to the right, going inward. And inside of that spiral, you imagine in the meditation little grooves, in the spiral. And those grooves are the years of your life. How many years have you lived? So you have 40, right? 40 grooves. And then you have like a ball there. It's like, a ball. I look at it as a pearl, but everybody sees the ball different. Some people see a metal ball, but it's there in the groove. And what you do is every day, I do this morning and night, I just imagine the spiral and I start turning this little ball counterclockwise.
It's like setting back time.
Exactly.
That's why you look so good.
That's why you look so young.
And as you keep doing it every day, you finally get it a little bit more. And what you're doing is you're doing something called mental gravity. Because we have, this kind of gravity that keeps us here, makes us age. And if you believe in death, it starts to get you. It's a collective belief. Mm-hmm. It's not naturally real. We came from before a more advanced society, all of us. Not all of us, but many of us. I definitely was an Atlantean. And I lived in Egypt, during the early time. And I remember all that. I also had a lot of memories. I remember one time there was like a guy in front of my bed, like a light beam. And I asked, "What are you doing here?" Helping you to remember.
Wow.
So all I was remembering was previous lives, like Atlantis, Lemuria. And I went to see a kahuna. It's a Hawaiian shaman in New York City. This is right after I opened. And I went to see this. It was a woman and her husband. And I went to see them. And the first thing she said was, "Let's talk about Atlantis, who you were, how you lived, and why you're here. Because you can only understand who you are because you come from this advanced world, where you didn't age. You lived very long." And she's the first one who said to me, "In your last life, you lived to 125. So you still know how to do it."
Oh, I love that.
And when I first met Christos, my test for Christos, because when I first met him, I thought, nice, Greek boy, we're going to have fun. In the end, it was totally different. He came to a workshop of mine only a few months later. And when he was in the workshop and he told me, I can see Christos, that was his, he started to tell me his stories. So I said, okay, I'm going to test you then, because I'm like that. I got to test people. I have students. I'm always testing them. And he said to me, well, you lived 125 years in your last life. First thing, I thought, oh my God, here we go. And I was with you in your last life, and that we made this long travel from France to Tibet. It's
wow. I can't imagine being in your shoes and hearing that. Like your heart was probably like,
Details that I have ever seen. You lost 3 toes from frostbite. Everything, every detail, which is the truth. I lost 3 toes.
Oh my God.
And it was an amazing thing to have somebody in such detail know you. And that kind of got me, because I've never been faithful to Christos in any life. You have to understand. I've never actually believed in monogamy like that. And he believes in monogamy. So in this life, I told him, I'm going to prove to you that I'm monogamous. For you. And I have been.
You're making me believe in love again.
I'm doing it for him too, because it has been against my nature for a long time, but it has not ended well.
Right.
Going with the more beautiful person or whatever, when I have a heart connection. No. And when I first met Christos, he doesn't remember, the first thing he said to me, when he opened to me and told me his gifts, he said, we are two of one thing and you rejected me. I'm the part of you. I'm your part of your shadow that you reject.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, that feels
And
right.
so we split from one person to two. And I was the better part of you. You see, the shadow is often the better part, the one who really is diligent, who really works, who really does the ceremony, who evolves. And you became something else, still illustrious, whatever, a leader, but, not the same as me. I was in shock. And that's when I felt there's something more here. Whether it's true or not, he doesn't remember ever saying it.
Oh, wow.
It just came through him. It was a whole afternoon.
Wow.
But Christos is also the one who sat down with me, and we went into a different heightened state, and we were just talking. And then all of a sudden, my guides came in a photograph, so I could look at them, and then they started talking one by one. And then they took over my computer, my spiritual guides, and then they showed me their biographies as Wikipedia. Can you imagine? And then I went back on Wikipedia. It doesn't exist. They just created it for that moment. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh!
That's so cool.
And I should have taken better notes. I know, but I should have taken better notes. I should,
Because then, that's at least when we channel with the Akashic, I forget everything.
I know. You do. It's like a dream. You wake up, you have to write down the dream. Why journaling is so important. I keep journals. So that's how you write books. You have to keep your journals to be able to write books, because you don't remember what you felt at that time. And you have to guide people through the beginning too. Mm-hmm. What they were going through at that time. Like, I'm not that person anymore. But I go back to when I was, even 9 years old. I was laying hands on people when I was 9. I had a healing gift when I was 9, and I started to go through churches. I started with the Holy Spirit. My sister was like a Pentecostal. She was a holy roller. And she got me into these churches. I was born Catholic. My parents never knew what I was doing. My sisters were taking me to hands on people, and everybody was better. Then I groups with really a lot of people, 70 people doing things. Always service. This taught me so much about philanthropy and service and being generous, that you can't, have money unless you are, being generous with other people.
That's true.
It's
energetics.
Yes. I mean, all those things.
Isn't there a balance though? Because, for example, we have, just to not give big shout outs, but we have a family member that Lorena and I saw suffer because he was so generous. He gave out too much that it ended up biting him in the butt. And so there must be a limit where if you're giving too much, it's going to affect you.
I had 2 friends. One lost her daughter, to suicide, but she never would believe it. And she spent millions of dollars just trying to find her daughter. And then I had another friend who lost his brother. And then he only went into time travel. He was obsessed with time travel to bring back his brother.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
And he, then you can't speak to them anymore. They lose themselves and all that. And these are very evolved spiritual people who are on incredible tracks. They could have gone so far. Yeah. But that was the, you can't say it's a flaw, but it's the thing that stopped them. I have so much experience with different kinds of people. Like now, every day, people have told me about which parent died during COVID. Mm-hmm. Or I have people I have a woman who was horseback riding and she fell off the horse and paralyzed now from the waist down. It is a lot of, and then of course, a lot of our students died. They said that this is our time to go. And that you're going to see more of.
Yeah.
When people as groups say that they want to go, like it's hard for them here. It's too difficult. They want to go to the spiritual world, which of course is lovely. The
Yeah.
underworld is quite
Of
wonderful.
course.
Yeah.
There's a lot in the underworld. They chained all the different really nasty beings there too. But where we go in the underworld, they take care of us. You know that.
Yeah, we feel
And
the same message too.
Yeah.
When you think of Hades or any of these kind of beings, they actually are caretakers of the dead. Quite lovely. I love Mother Earth, Father Sky. This is how you do it. You also know that the moon and sun are clocks. They create these calendars, and you honor the calendar, just like the Mayans did. You start to understand. Mayans are the masters of time. Hopi were the masters of space. And these different kinds of underworld cities that people go to, like in Brazil too, they have a whole religion, Rubiazi and whatever, where people do the ceremonies on the top. They do like a church service kind of thing. And then they go down. The same service is done in the underworld. So they taught them how to continue. And that actually is very Native American.
Wow.
Actually, the same idea. So when I went to Brazil, the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, this is a little crazy, with the Greek temple and the whole thing. But in fact, they're actually close to the original idea.
Mm.
And it's always 9, nine is always divine. The Hopi have 9 elders and 9 kivas. Kivas were the shapes of these things that protected them after the Atlantis deluge, the actual time. They're like, like spaceships kind of things. They're like boats.
Mm-hmm.
And they could go during a flood. And they're exactly their ceremonial centers, what they look like. You see, they do the same kind of opening. It's very fascinating.
Do you have any advice for since we're all stuck, a lot of us can't go too many places right now. Is there a way to still connect with that ceremonial thing? Because I know it's like the power of many energies. So you alone, right? It's a little difficult.
I'm always teaching a different kind of ceremony because, look, I have embraced witches. I have so many friends now that are witches. So I started to teach witchcraft for them.
Oh, I love that.
Because I have many students that are witches. So I start to go through all the different Hecatean rituals. Then we go through the moon, how you draw down the moon. Because there's many things that are similar in shamanism and witchcraft. And we're good friends, shamans and witches. And so we start to go into, what kind of incense should we use? I say a very good incense, like in South America, you have copal, which if you flood it with copal, a place, that can help with interdimensional travel and leaving your body. And so I show them, different rituals that they can do. We make things like ladders and all sorts of fun things in order to travel, do rituals, and in the center of the ritual, for a specific effect. And then I got, I also studied some voodoo. I really like hoodoo. I like voodoo. I like all those things. That's more African. So I went through a study there. I like very much Africa. I'm very happy in Africa. I have to say it's different than the one continent you never want to leave. Once you're there, you fall in love with the animals, you fall in love with the people. It's nothing like you can just.
It's like another world.
Stay away.
It's another world.
Instinctual.
Yeah.
And so underworld, underground cities, all these kind of things. I learned if you want to do ceremony, you want to connect to these places, you have to stay in a prayerful mode, like a constant meditation. Christos and I say this life for us is an illusion. We're actually meditating.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Part of our consciousness, only meditating.
Oh.
You understand? Like the soul is in a meditation and we're projected here. That's how we see our lives.
Oh,
and we always say, Christos always says, Foster, you never come as one soul. You're a group soul in one body. And that's actually how I feel. It's, the many voices are now one. I'm in my 60s. But when I was younger, there were many, many beings. I could feel them inside of me, and they all had to integrate. Yeah. And they all had to follow the higher self. The most important thing is to reach the higher self or your holy guardian angel. Your guys just to honor and respect them, though they don't need much. All the other beings like Hecate or any beings, I have my Alegua here, that's African shamanism. I have my Apollo. I have lots of different beings. I'm Greek, so I also honor Apollo. And you have to give the most. I have to say a day that doesn't go by where some spirit says, "You didn't give me offerings today."
Right.
So the life of a shaman is, I have to put a plate of food outside for the spirits. I have to do another offering because I've also done fairy rituals where you have to talk to the earth and you have to invoke the fairies, and then they come and they live in your property. So like everything becomes amazing.
Oh, wow.
Because they come through the doors. Because you open a door on your property, you talk to the earth and you did the specific sounds. So everything I have ever taught is in videos, just to let you know.
Oh, yes. Yes.
If-
Tell us about that.
Well, if
yeah,
I
definitely.
teach something, I put it in a video. That way it's for posterity. Because also I may never remember these things again. Do you know what I
Exactly.
mean? I'm getting older. So
And it's a
like,
legacy. You have to pass that on. That's part of
There's-
probably your mission here.
absolutely. So when we did the fairy thing, I got my fairy ritual through the Sloan manuscripts of the British Library, because everything has been written down, in other centuries, and you just have to translate it for modern times. So we looked it over, Christus and I, and we translated it.
Wow.
And then I did it once with Christus, and then I started to do it by myself.
So where can people
Yeah.
find those videos?
They're on video on demand, and my secretary and office at Golden Hummingbird will direct you there. Or we have a link to every Vimeo. They're on video on demand. Foster Perry. My name.
We'll put all that
Golden
info on the show notes. That's amazing.
is amazing. You learn all about the fairies, but then you have to do the ritual, and the ritual is intense. You do it over a few nights.
I actually had no idea you're doing that. If not, I would have checked it out a lot sooner.
I like the Solomonic Ritual. I say I'm going to teach you this, and then we go through each phase. I even had crystals like do the whole mouthing of it, so they understand like how to chant it and how to open up a pentagram and hexagram with your fingers,
Yeah.
or a wand, or a sword, and then we show it on the video, and then you do the ritual. This is how you do a banishing pentagram, hexagram. There's so many. I mean, there's some for doing the medicine wheel. How do you want to set up a medicine wheel? What are the directions? How do you do it for North and South America? So all of ours end with a ritual. You understand? Like I did one on witchcraft and the 9, because I also like very much the daemons, because they have their own understanding, and they help angels and they help everybody, and they're very close to us, and they're very fast. And there are 9 originals there, and they live in Akasha. They live in the 5th element. And so you call them from the 5th element. And then they come. And they used to take over my stereo all the time. I have one that I love really a lot, Cupid. You know who Cupid is? With the arrow.
Cupid,
and
yeah.
Cupid too has a different name, as a daemon. But it is a daemon. And Cupid would come and take over the stereo in my room. I have these like speakers in the room. And would just start playing music. I mean, it's not connected even to the speakers, and they would just play music.
Oh my
To me,
gosh.
love song. Like from the 70s. And I would just listen to these love songs. And they would make me cry because they're like from your, when you were a kid. But it's the way that they say them. It's the way that it opens your heart. And then you realize, oh my God, they're opening my heart. They want me in a specific place. And this is their gift. We're giving them rituals and giving them, offerings. And, I give an offering of a drop of my blood. That's what they like. And they come want something, they're not going to fast unless you do the rituals. We did Orion rituals to different planets, planetary systems. That's what Native Americans are doing. They're balancing the universe. They're dancing the universe on Earth. They're opening the ley lines on Earth, and they're connecting the different stars. And they time everything. It's amazingly astrological and astronomical. And the more we start, every night we go out, we look on our star maps, and we see the connections between stars and what star is calling us tonight. Maybe we lie down and we'll journey for 10, 15 minutes to a star.
That's awesome.
You were saying at the beginning that you were going to Venus. Do you go to any other places or just Venus?
Everything. I have a list. So the last one that I did on video, I just finished, is the Kachinas. So the Kachinas are star beings. dolls out of them, and people dance 9 feet tall. So if you go live with the Indians, you see them. They dress as Kachinas in the dances, and they're 9 feet tall. With these incredible headdresses. So amazing how they do it. Anyway, yeah, in this we have all the different planetary systems and what you can expect. It's like a short description, like you want to go to Bhutas, you want to go to Arcturus, very good for shamans.
Oh, and you can guide all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Or do you want to go to the Pleiades? Do you want to go to Orion? Which stars? You want to go to Orion's belt, which is where everybody usually goes. The belt of Orion is 3 stars in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for specific alignments. Mm-hmm. And then the more you study the alignment, the more you connect to the alignment, the more they connect to you. Whatever you want, they come towards you.
Yeah.
You make the effort, they come. It's very fascinating. And
I love that.
I've always been very attracted to Jupiter. What do you have to tell us about Jupiter?
Jupiter is expansive. You know that. Yeah. It is also wealth. So maybe you're calling wealth into your life. It's also authority. It is generosity. It is can be a kind of unconditional love in which you are, magnanimous. Jupiter is always about expanding something. So unfortunately, if you're dieting and you're doing Jupiter, doesn't work.
I've learned that in astrology.
Everything big.
Yeah, I think my butt got too much of Jupiter. Yeah.
Well, when people start in spirituality, they all want money. They all try to do Jupiter rituals. To Jove, like they did in Rome. Christos told me a lot about Hermetics, how they used to teach in the Renaissance, the people about wealth and how to generate money. So, of course, all these different wealthy families at the Renaissance time started to study rituals, and they only did the same ritual, only for money. So all their houses are magical houses, only for money. But it's very boring to us. Always keep asking for money and not for the higher spiritual advancement, not for the mysteries, not for, for us, it's in mystery schools we're teaching.
Or health. Task for health these days.
Oh, yeah. We did many things about different plants and how to work with plants, teachers. We have our own plant, I have it right here, but we have our little plant teachers, like I have my mandrake. I sleep with my mandrake at night, my mandragora root. It looks like a little person, and I stay with it. And the mandrake teaches me in my dreams. And then you have to learn slowly to wake up in your dreams so that you can start to control your dreams. You can be inside of your dreams, change outcomes, interact with the spirits in your dreams.
I actually have a question for you to get your opinion. I had the other day an experience, and I've never been able to accept parallel lives. Like for the longest time, I kind of put in a little box and I said, okay, one day I'll revisit the idea. And one day I was in bed feeling really, 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 really sick. But I was like freezing. There was no reason. I had been totally fine. There was nothing wrong with me. It just came out of nowhere. And I remember I kind of prayed to my higher self and asked to see if I could figure out like what was going on with me. And I drifted off. And then I had a dream about this crazy parallel life, where it was just like everything turned around in my scenario. And she was like emotionally devastated in those scenarios. And I thought, I felt it. I experienced it. It was real. And I thought I just tapped into it.
Well, you are a multidimensional person. It's a multiverse. We talk about the 11 dimensions. And one of these dimensions, there are parallel worlds, parallel dimensions that are all affected. And you enter that dimension and you start to interact with it. And there are dimensions where you have a different time. Time, not like we experience time, but completely different. There's one in which, you're in a parallel dimension in another solar system. So that is all possible. You're also working out things, inside of yourself to eventually integrate that are not integrated now. Remember, we have an emotional body, we have a physical body, and they all have different names. You have an intellectual body that has a different name. Mm-hmm. And if you could name all the different bodies, then you could put them together as a kind of Arthurian round table with all your selves. And then they all balance. They start to balance each other because they're all acknowledged. I have a name for my emotional self, my physical self, my intellectual self, my spiritual self, and then the higher magical name that usually Isis or one of the great goddesses gives you. Because, anything but goddesses, it was all matriarchal. And then it became El Elyon, the Father God, and all that stuff. So when I return and I listen to them, and I know all my different bodies, I feel much more aware. And then I do my practices, which is outer, you look at the sun and the moon and everything outer, you listen to sounds outer. And then you do mindfulness inside, where everything is only inside and you have no concept of what's outside. And then you put the two together, inner and outer as one consciousness, hyper aware of everything in your space and very aware of what's going on inside of you and every movement. That's enlightenment.
No, I love that.
And
Just the way you put that.
You have to practice all that in your life. So when you are finding different parts of yourself, you know that the whole journey of spirituality is to know yourself.
Of course,
So
100%.
So Lucia, you must have asked, I want to know myself. I want to know what's going on inside of me. I want to know. So I'm sorry, they showed you. It really
I didn't like it. It was awful. She was so upset.
And you slowly start speaking to that person. You start, talking to them, acknowledging them and seeing how can we help you. And then you get to a certain point of healing, like forgiveness or healing or directing them because they're finding you. Mm-hmm. And then it integrates into you and then you have more energy, more power. That's how it works.
Is it normal for it to tap into this reality?
Yeah. Oh, terrible things. I've tapped into horrible things, like everything I've ever chained in other lives, all my prisons. What have I imprisoned in the past? And then you have to free them and release them and liberate them. Oh my God, that day is a big day. Your heart bursts open. You liberate everything inside of you you've chained, everything you wanted to reject in your shadow. And you're meeting your shadow, Lucia, who can be, and sometimes the shadow is very chaotic. Why do I go to the stars? Because the stars are full of order. They have a natural order. And if we can bring that order to earth, then we have natural order here. And that's what ceremony is.
Yeah.
The order is not existing. Things move in a certain way, and then you start to move. You have so much free will here, Lucia. You could go like wherever you want emotionally, and eventually you have to say, well, what do I really want? How do I want to live my life here? A lot of kids just want to experience absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. And then once you've experienced everything, well, and now has it hurt you? Has it done something to you? What worked? What works for you? What helps you to actually be more awake, more alert? That's what shamans will always say. How have you cultivated awareness? Mm-hmm. Or have you just been distracted?
I feel sometimes like the way I feel like I would want to live might be wrong. Like if there like there's that meme, I don't know if you've seen the meme that goes around that says there's people that want that like really expensive house and the big car, right? And then there's people that want the small cabin in the woods away from those people. Well, I'm the second one.
Yes. Definitely. Oh yeah. No,
but that's being antisocial, and we're here to interact with each other.
It's spirituality, I have to tell you. Because in my own life, okay, I had the experiences with the big cars and all the money and everybody always comparing themselves around money. And I just felt like it's too greedy, especially if you live in LA. It's like, oh God, and you'll never reach that anyway. It's like it never stops.
Of course.
And then you realize, okay, my priorities are wrong. I don't want to do this anymore. And then you retreat, then I retreated more into the country. I don't want traffic. I don't want a lot of cars. I want to be with nature.
Yeah.
I want to just drive my car to a crossroad in the middle of nowhere. And I want to speak to spirit, to the great spirit, Watatanka, to Kashla, and or Hecate, call her. And I love that I could just drive, just do that, and I feel aligned again. I feel just being there, in the middle of nowhere, praying that no car come, because I'm in the middle of a ceremony in like a roadway.
Oh my gosh.
It is, because it's a lot of crossroads. That's what you need, like lots of time.
Yes.
But far away from people. And then cars always come, don't worry. They always say, that's the end of the ritual. Here comes a car. And you just feel this blessing, that peace that just descends you, just being in nature. And I like to quiet myself down. I love to listen to all the different voices and the parts. And then the tremendous peace of spirit when it just sees through your eyes, when it's awakened, and then it takes over. Right? That's like when you're chanting, you guys. Mm-hmm. That's like you feel Mother Earth and you feel deeper connection underground and above, and you're just there. You don't want to leave. The wind comes in. Nature interacts with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's spirit. That's spirituality. That's what you're called to. Crystal says, the older I get, I just want to go to the forest now. I just want to.
I
feel the same
do.
way.
Yeah. The thing is, I have a child that kind of needs to play with other children.
And Native Americans will say maybe that's your calling to spirit, because they had to do that too. They had to leave cities. They had to leave chaos, because they always say that cities are going to get full of chaos. They're going to become places where people are get crazier and crazier.
Uh-huh.
And you have to be very careful. And because it's so much TV, so much stimulus, so much going on, they've lost their way. So that when these spirits come, when, just comet comes, whatever, are you ready? Are you ready to live a harmonious life? Because the next age is only that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the adaptation you always sense in me. I'm adapting to the way things are going to be.
Sign me up. I'll go tomorrow.
That's your way. You're doing that naturally. But again, you have to be a leader. You have to be a teacher. You have to be on fire for the people. You have to help kids and educate. Everything is education. And especially kids, you know, and especially healing. You want to help with health.
I struggle with the children thing. Like my daughter started school now, and I'm a bit against this school system. Like, I feel like they don't teach you what the kids really need to. She's 4 years old. They should be teaching her how to deal with her emotions, how to recognize herself. She's not. And so I read like archangel books at night before going to sleep. And she already knows how to put a crystal grid under her bed and activate it. And my partner thinks I'm crazy.
Well, there's Steiner schools and there's Montessori. But in the end, we need a school that also merges mystery schools and spiritual teachings for kids.
Yeah. Oh my God, I would love to find one like that.
That's what we want, right? That's why we want to create it.
Yeah.
We all yearned for that growing up. I want, the medicine man to teach me. And again, this is Native American life. It always hurts me when kids on reservations don't want to learn it. I'm like, this is what I wanted to learn. And they wanted my education. You understand? Like, no, I wanted to be prepared for the world to make more money. And I want theirs, how to work with the clans, how to understand spirit. That is what you have to teach your kids anyway. They will have to make the decision. If you live your life according to spirit, according to your heart, they will try to find you.
It's beautiful.
Because there is no, I have to say it, after all these years, I don't see any joy or anything in this very modern kind of boring world that we're living in.
No, I don't see it either.
It didn't give me very much. And yet now with my eyes open, I see everything as divinity. I see everything that way, but I live much more simple now, I lived a big life. Don't worry. I worked hard and did all that stuff.
So are you guys traveling anymore? Because I heard you guys are going to New York and New Jersey, was it?
Yeah, we're going to New York, New Jersey in June. We have a big workshop here at our house in June. Oh, and cool. Then we're going to try to go to Italy, Slovenia, and Poland, Greece, and I think it's mostly Germany. We're going there.
You're not making it to Holland.
No, we're not going to make it to Holland, but we would love to.
Oh.
Maybe not this time. We're going where we usually go.
Yeah.
We have a lot of students, and we just want to see how they're doing.
Yeah.
So for healing, a lot of people now, when you've been home so much and you've analyzed your inner life and you've spent more time with your inner life, that's what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard for me even to come out now. I like being, and going through your dreams. You finally have enough time to catch your breath. So now you make different decisions. Do I want to go back to the way I worked before?
Yeah.
No. Do I want to live the way that, we were rushing, doing all these things? We were so happy not to.
Yeah.
And what is fascinating is that Christos now is in one place and he's now getting work in a totally different area.
Yeah. It shifts everything.
Yeah. You're changing. You're going towards what you really felt all your life you should have gone towards. Mm-hmm. Or more towards what you feel would be service. Maybe now I think Lorena definitely is starting more her service. There's years of that. I have to tell you, Lorena, I did that 35 years.
Yeah.
Long time. And Lucia, you have to bring through new ways of thinking, new ways of educating kids, new ways of health, because hospitals and all this, there's a lot of good people there, but it's not working.
Yeah.
We all feel the limitations of the society we're in. We are the next people who have to change it, who have to innovate it, who have to at least speak our mind and tell the truth and be honest. Like, I don't want my children to learn these things. I want them to learn more than this.
Yeah.
Another dimension of learning. And then you have to start it. Not that you'll ever be able to finish it or that you could even maintain it. You just have to start it.
Yeah.
In the end, a lot of us are yearning for more than that. I think we're learning for a whole structural change. We want actually almost every structure to change, including governments.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the US, we really went through almost like a destruction of our government.
Totally. Yeah.
And it showed a lot of the flaws in the system. I'm not against anything. I'm not a divided person like that. I feel more, I want to live in a society where at least I'm free to make my choices.
Yep.
Free to do, the witchcraft or whatever. If my neighbors knew what I was doing, I don't know that they would like it. They'd keep it to yourself, And then the few people who really do know are, they want to know more. They want to do more, actually, more ritual with it. One of the things, I also did a whole teaching on just dragons, which I like very much. How to build a fire inside of you, how to do dragon rituals, which is the draconian mysteries. And then I taught the Kabbalah, and then I taught the dark wheel too, so that you know both sides.
Yeah.
Not to get too much into evil, the dark wheel, but to know it.
Because to understand it.
Yes, and understand and transform through the dragons, because it's two dragons. And then, when you're in South America, it's the Plume Serpent. The Plume Serpent is the dragon.
What's a Plume Serpent?
It is where all these temples are oriented to, in the Yucatan, in Peru. There's a lot here. Kukulkan is the version of Plume Serpent that I'm teaching. This dragon in the air and in the water, it's always both, and it's a fire dragon. So does it destroy the world or does it bring us Kundalini? That was one of the practices for me. Within a year of my transformation, I had Kundalini. And no one told me what Kundalini is. I didn't know what it was. At first, I had to hold on to buildings. I was really, really ungrounded for a long time. I was floating out of the air. I was anti-gravity, everything. And I went to actually see these monks who were trying to levitate, and they levitated a few inches off the ground. I was so involved in these things then, to go anti-gravity. So I was in the middle of a meditation with these shamans. They were taking me through the universe. This is, back to the universe. We were going through the Pleiades and Sirius, and all of a sudden I had Kundalini. And my body started shaking, and the whole thing was ringing like bells from inside. Bells. I mean, I'm talking thousands of bells. My whole body, incredible feeling. And I'm shaking, whatever. Everybody's eyes are closed. They're in some meditation. And I'm just really going through the whole thing, and I don't resist it. I have to let it go. And, I had to, by the end, I really wanted to scream. At the end, like, but I just went through it. I'm so polite, really, I don't scream. And all of a sudden, boom, I was in a different reality. I was here, but I was clean. I was there. I was walking between the worlds. That's the initiation. So it's self-initiation, I realize. It's timing when you have Kundalini. Real Kundalini is that. And I realized there's a whole build-up for it. And then after that, I was more like saving people, helping people. Because you went through the big things. Then I had to do voluntary death. That's something in shamanism. You have to prepare your own death. You have to make a casket. You have to do the whole thing. Then you have to bury yourself alive. And then you have to let yourself die.
Wow.
And somebody has to take care of you, to make you food and everything. You recapitulate your life, you die. And then they revive you. And that was, I lost a lot of weight. I was like, I don't know, 100 pounds or whatever. It was like,
oh my.
And It was a profound death. And so I went into samadhi. You go into a death state. In samadhi, you're like in a bliss and you don't feel anything. You feel good. You feel a joy, but you're in a samadhi. And that lasted 6 months. 6 months samadhi.
Wow.
Then I came out of it. I was only 29 years old.
So young.
Wow.
So then you die and then you're reborn. And then that's it. Okay, now do your work. Go home. You still have things to learn, but go out. You're always learning.
Yeah.
That was the great blessing. Then death didn't have meaning for me anymore. Death didn't exist for me.
I think I need to do that because I freak out with death. Even though I know all of these things, I understand it, but it's more losing somebody than me dying, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When you die, it's very slow. It's like falling asleep. And you wake up on the other side, and then there's luminosity. There's light on the other side.
And I love sleeping, so that's okay.
Yeah, because many people now are not sleeping, not so well.
Yeah.
And that again is the rumblings of the unconscious. Are you in alignment with your real self or not? I believe I can sleep because I'm in peace with myself. Not every little thing I've ever done in my life, every lie I've ever done, I remember. And I have forgiveness for every lie. But I don't believe in sin. I don't believe in guilt. I don't believe in any of those things. That to me is all Yahweh. That is all a manipulation. I only believe in original blessing. And there's always two trees, for the Kabbalists in the Garden of Eden. I love that. One is the tree of life, the tree of immortality, which is always the shamans used to say to me, when you get to the underworld, remember there is the waters there. And if you go in the waters, you'll be rejuvenated. Oh my God, you'll be immortal. And you have to spend time bathing there. And that's why you have to die voluntarily. And so it's not a bad thing. And yet I have fears of death. Like I don't go to amusement parks and ride I used to ride always the wildest roller coaster. I don't do that anymore. Like I'm older. No.
I think that comes with, you get older and you're like, wow, I would not do that ever again.
I jumped out of an airplane, when I was younger. I won't do that. I used to do trust falls. I did over like 150 trust falls off of buildings. Like really. What? Yeah, into all these things. Because I used to teach that I wanted everybody to overcome their fears. They have to actually fall backwards. So it's scarier. And sometimes they hit the building because they're so scared, like they cramp up and they get injured. So we had a few injuries, but most people did it because, it's like a giant, mattress or whatever at the other end. We had big things. We had to stop that because people were terrified. They were terrified of jumping. And I said, no, this is very much what life is. This is in the tarot, the fool. You must jump off the edge and you must trust. So that happened with me and the shamans. I fell off a cliff. And the shaman man, this huge man, picked me up and grabbed my arm just as I was dangling on the cliff. I was laughing because I was blindfolded. I had no idea.
Oh my God.
He told me later, you were like way off this cliff. And then he pulled me back up. And so I always felt protected. Yeah. And that's the way, Lorena, I want you to feel. This is Mother Earth. We protect her. She protects us. These extraterrestrials, the good ones, always protecting. They're kind of there when you need them. I have a lot of friends who were Vietnam vets, and they were in Vietnam, and in the middle of the fighting, they were about to die. And blue beings came. These blue people, they have no face. They're about 9 feet tall, 7 feet to 9 feet tall. And they come in the middle of the battlefield and took them off and protected them.
Oh.
So, Lucia, when you totally trust, when you really believe, it is amazing. When you feel the connection to your ancestors, that's the most important thing. You've got to find the ancestor, maybe who was the witch or the shaman or whoever, the medicine woman, the curandera. I love a good curandera. My favorite. I have many friends curanderas, and I train curanderas. Sometimes the curanderas say they get trained with you. You're like, okay, let's start with Datura, the most poisonous, and let's see how you deal. Do you die or do you live? It's really like that.
Really?
because you have to raise these poisons. You have to learn from these plants. And you have to learn how to use the plant in a way that won't kill you, that will just help you to go to elevated states.
That reminds me of something that happened to me. Since you know about those things, I had Aurora, and I had an emergency C-section. I had been bombarded with what's it called? To not feel the pain.
Epidural and stuff, or painkillers.
Yeah, what's the drug called that they give you not feel the pain? Forgot the name.
Oh, codeine or
you get an epidural, but I don't know if that's what it is.
The anesthesiologist.
Yes.
Yeah, anesthesia. Okay. So they had given me anesthesia for so many hours. And then my doctor messed up, and I was bleeding out, and it was almost like 3 liters or something. And then after found out that he had cut one of my main arteries by mistake. And I remember I was in the bed, and I was like, I'm never going to meet my daughter. And before that, I had read my own Akashic records many months before having her. And they told me that I was going to have a near-death experience. I was like, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. I didn't believe myself. And then I was on the table, and I felt myself going. And I remember thinking I would never meet my daughter. And I started praying and asking the masters to let me come back, and I wasn't ready to go. And I, thankfully, obviously I made it. But my body went totally haywire from obviously all the blood that I lost, the experience I went through, and all the anesthesia, and my body bloated up. I remember my feet being like 3 times its size. It was itchy, awful, and it wouldn't go away. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I had fever. I kept vomiting, and it was 3 weeks after, and I was still going through all this stuff. And one night I was on the couch, and I was living in Cayman Islands, so there's scorpions. And one day I was on the couch laying down, and I'd fallen asleep with Aurora right here next to me. And I felt something crawl up my back, and I remember going, take it off. And I was thinking cockroach in my mind. I was like, take it off. And I felt a huge sting right in my spine, probably around the place where they had given me the epidural, because I felt around there. And it ended up being a black scorpion. The next day I felt amazing. Everything went away.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was no more vomit, no more fever. The 3 times the size of my feet that was itchy, gone. My body had like rebooted. And I was like, the only thing that happened was I got stung by a scorpion by mistake last night. There must be something in the venom that helped me, and it must have happened on purpose, right?
Because the poisons are the healers. All homeopathy based on poisons. And that's what a curandero must learn. You must introduce them to the poisons, show them how they heal. And that an animal took the time for you, took that moment. Whether it's a scorpion or it's a spider, both.
Oh, I think I hit it with the shoe and killed it.
Oh, I would honor the animal.
Oh, no.
But at the time, I didn't know I was going to get better, and I was freaking out. It was a scorpion.
That's fine. But, I've killed ants when I was a kid, but then you eventually go back like you, Renite. And you say to like a goddess of scorpions, or the spider woman even. And you go to her and you say, listen, I want to thank you. And you give an offering, and you make a little, little food for them, or you do a little ritual for them and say, thank you. You healed me, and now that's why I can heal. I'm sure they gave you more than just healed you. They gave you the mojo to heal.
Of course.
The scorpion woman now.
Yeah, but they saw inside of you that you can heal. And you can heal yourself with the help of nature. You see, it's a symbiosis. And that, I believe, is an authentic experience. You died, you came back, you didn't know, you're on the fence. I came back because I want to be with my daughter, but do I really want to be here? And so you start, part of shamanism, you have to have the willpower to commit to living here.
Yeah.
Because this is really hard to live.
It is hard.
Yeah. I keep saying I'll never come back.
And you did it. And you've been building yourself up for that. But look at all the miracles that happen to you. They're not miracles. They're just nature working with you to heal your body, because you believe in it and you have the past for it. You understand? Meaning every single thing you've ever done in your life leads up to that moment that you can have a healing.
Yeah.
That's why you always do good works. That's why you always transform. That's why you always find the right timings or the right intelligence for that moment. That's why you open your heart. I think, Lorena, don't, if you lost somebody you loved before, oh my God,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to have to realize that you can communicate with them. Look, I know this woman.
Sorry, I'm gonna cry, but I did actually.
That's what it is. That's the healing.
Yeah.
No one dies. Everybody's better off where they go. You see?
Yeah.
I had this friend. There was a person. Anyway, she was in her house, and the phone rang. So she had to move rooms, to get to the phone. Her phone was somewhere else, and she picked up the phone, and it was her father who was dead. Dead like 25 years. Okay,
Oh
he
my
was dead a long time.
gosh.
And he's talking to her. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Of course, she's crying. Daddy, that's you, Daddy. And that was heartbreaking when her father left. And sure enough, they get a knock on the door, right? And it's the police. And they said somebody had escaped from prison with a gun, and they were right outside your bedroom.
Oh, wow.
And because you moved to their room, we were able to get them.
What?
Saved their life.
Only because of that phone.
Oh my God, I have goosebumps. Oh my goodness.
That's the truth. You see, that they can do that, especially if the person is more adept when they were in life.
Yeah.
Like, I had a teacher once who, with their own hands, used to manifest objects, like manifest things while they're doing the healing.
Wow.
Like, insects would come out of the body, or, they would make little tools for people or little gifts. And you just watched it. They're not like a magician, like, playing games. They were able to manifest objects. I watched Christos doing that, for instance. He loves to manifest crosses. I have no idea why. He really likes crosses. And he makes like little crosses. And I have some of his crosses. Sometimes they dematerialize, by the way. But most of them, they stay a long time.
That's so cool.
I heard stories that like when something materializes like that, it actually came from somewhere. It was already in this 3D, but it came. So somebody lost it, for example, and you were able to materialize it where you are.
Absolutely. And that happened to me. My shaman said, when you go home, your medicine stone is on your desk. And I'm like, no, my medicine stone is right here. I just had it. We were just working with it. I said, no. It's now at home. Go home, Foster. So I went all the way back home. It was a long journey. I came home, and there it was. So he had moved the stone.
I feel like the whole time, oh my God, let me get home so I can check if it's there.
And that's happened to Slovenia once. I lost my wand, my favorite. I've lost many wands, but I lost one of my favorite, wands that had a spirit, a dryad of a tree. To heal, people would hold it and they would heal. And I lost it. I just, really was kind of despondent for about 24 hours. Like, where is my wand? I have energies, I have powers, but I kind of like my wand. I have attachments to things. And sure enough, I wake up in the morning, there it is, right at my feet. Like when you get out of bed, like they have a little thing in front, like a little rug, and there it was. I laughed.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, they said you have like 40 students coming, and they're all going to do rituals, and so dedicate a ritual to us, and because we can manifest. So I did one ritual about death. Okay, Lorena, just to tell you, and just because Lucy, I know, has gone through her own near death, and she's out of it more so than ever, which is really, Lucia has some shamanic training, and Lorena, so have you. You're just, you have to more remember.
Yep.
You're a little afraid of your training.
I am a little bit,
so,
yeah.
You're a little afraid. Yeah. And don't be afraid.
I'm afraid of everything.
She is. Ever since she was a little girl, she was afraid of everything. I remember that.
Well, if you really want a remedy, then you have to go towards your fear. Mm-hmm. That's what I had to do as a shaman. My biggest fear was heights. So the first thing the shamans did was put me in ropes and dangle me off a cliff where it was a 4,000-foot drop.
I did that actually. I forced myself to go rappelling and mountain climbing.
You ended up loving it.
I loved it.
Yeah, see?
But my little legs were shaking the whole time.
But remember the feeling.
Yeah,
remember all your little ways of courage. Lots of people came to me in this life and they said, I don't want to be a housewife again. I don't want another life where I am just, with a man, being a housewife, and blah, blah, blah. That's an empty life. I've had 4 lives like that. I'm so bored. Could you please help me to be initiated into something more exciting? So I whacked her on the back, and that was the beginning.
You actually
change your assemblage point, right?
Yeah.
The old Toltec method. Just whack them in the back. Poor lady. And I said, this is what you asked for.
Got to be careful what you ask for.
And don't you want to face your fears? I mean, tremendous fears. Never did anything. So I said, well, let's have experiences. We're going to take you to the sacred site. Oh, no, I just want to do ceremonies that are nice. No way. No, we're going to go do some heavy duty stuff. And then she slowly changed. I forced her to go on a vision quest, like no food, no water, 3 days. So she really came back like exhausted, like drained.
And hangry.
Yes, but she had a vision. First vision of her life. And that made me so happy, even though I had to give her copious amounts of water and help her and lie down and everything. I needed her to go to her edge. That was her edge.
Mm. Do you do these healings virtually, or do they have to be in person?
I like to do them in person. Crystal says, let's do them now virtually. I try. I can do it virtually. You can send energy. You can send chi balls to people, right? That's very easy. You make the little chi ball and send it. I focus on people. I like to go to this little point in the back of your head, like a little indentation, and you can enter the center of your skull. And there's like a little room in the center of the skull. And what you do is you imagine this room has these things that are plugged in. Like you plug in speakers and speaker wire and all that stuff. And you start unplugging everything because you don't want all these plugs in. But taking them out, take meditation, keep doing it till they're finally all out. And then you go into this inner room to go into somebody else. You go into their brain. And then you start to heal their brains. You start to heal, like demons. Also, demons are actually brain synapses. They're separated aspects of the brain. And it's very wild. But you can start to call actually certain different demons, like of the Goetia or whatever, to heal somebody's brain. I'm a healer, so everything for me ends up in healing. And then I teach other people, let's go into this brain area, this room, and let's start working to take a bullet out of somebody. I like to do that if they were shot in the head. Or let's go into the whole body and see, where the black areas are. Let's start to pull it out. And this room has been incredibly helpful for me. And I use that for many things that I do. I like to put my hands behind somebody's head and then connect to their room.
Wow.
Because we all have the same rooms.
I mean, because I'm sure a lot of people want to have a session with you, but maybe they can't travel.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? So, but I understand it is a very...
You just give them a message. Like you give us. I like to give messages to people and make them, get prepared. If I do it in person, okay? So there were a lot of people that came to me for healings that I didn't think were really ready. But Crystal said, this is somebody important that, we should give a healing. This is the friend of, like the brother of somebody he really likes. So I did a big shamanic healing on them, like a whole ceremony. And no cancer the next day. So they only had like a week to live. No cancer. They're all fine. And what happens? They go right back to smoking and drinking, and they're all way alive, and the cancer comes back in 2 minutes and they die.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to do healings. That's what I learned.
It's changing, adapting, moving.
I have more than 5,000 healings that are documented. And many of those people go back to their old age. More than 50%. So I get discouraged. You hear about all this scientific healing, the Bible of Jesus healing this and multiplying and whatever. And in the end, did it really change their consciousness? The people did change. Jesus for me was quite a being. I was enlightened by meeting someone like that. That's an adept. That he was quite advanced for his time. And when I think of healing, and doing this kind of work, I want people to change their consciousness, and I think that's why we educate people more. Yeah. We've tried all the phenomenon. We've tried so many different ways to convince people that it's real. That they go back to their old habit of the brain, Lucia. That's why it's better that you go through in your death. You have a purpose to find your child. You have a purpose to give the life better for your child, to get out of your things and fight the system. Lucia is much more of a fighter of the system.
Oh yeah.
I'm fighting back like crazy.
That's your job. That's your job. I mean, really, do we need to manipulate weather, with all these, they fly over your house with all these bizarre chemicals, do they need to do all these things to our food? Do they need to, close down all these different sites where we could have had experiences interdimensional? Lucia's whole purpose, I think, is to fight, to be a warrior, and to speak her truth as a woman, and say, I'm just not going to take it anymore. I think I'm going to take care of these people. So.
And lately, I've been very passionate about trying to get people to find a way to financially become independent. So you're not a slave to a job that you hate. Like, I think that's an awful thing. And I think that's the way they grab us like by the balls the most,
And the complaining around
all
the time. It doesn't help. You have to get them out of the mindset to think about what could I do? How wonderful it could be. That's the positive thinking. You have it. You have to be a bit of a kind of reactionary cheerleader for them. Get them back to their dreams. But Lorena, I mean, you are more of a chronicle. That's why I always say to you, you need to write it all down. It's good for you to have direct experience. Absolutely. You are somebody who should journal your life. You have to journal things, and then things come because it's so subtle.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the big thing, and it's very subtle. And
that makes so much sense.
And they made you do so many crazy things in the past. I mean, even watching the ball ceremony, that terrible ball ceremony in the Mayan thing where they kill people. I mean, do you really need to see all that? Or don't you want to go into the deeper teachings of the archaeoastronomers, of the real shamans who watch the stars and they write it all down? It's tedious work, but it's beautiful. And you're interested in that. You need to go into details. You're so good at chronicling things and making a pathway simpler for people too.
Yeah.
And then the heavy stuff comes. Don't worry, the heavy stuff always comes. You have a teacher who's quite heavy, who's much more like, indigenous. It's this is the way we do it.
That's
and you go
interesting you're saying that, because I had a reading with somebody probably a year and a half or two ago, and they kind of gave me that info that they saw like that tattoos on their face or something.
Wow.
You love some unusual teachers. You do, but it's about you writing about it.
Okay.
You see, you have to be more of a chronicler, more of that. In a way, you have to write about Lucia and all her things and what she does. How she breaks, how she faces the law, how she brings, higher laws into lower laws.
It's so funny because I always feel like I'm such a bad storyteller.
Not really.
I feel that way though. Yeah.
Not if you have your heart in it and it's justice. If you get inside of all the meanings, remember, things have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
When you're inside multiple meanings, then you're interested. Because you're a very multi-leveled kind of person. You like to go into the depths of things. While Lucia has to do justice in this life. She has to go through it. Boom, 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 like a shaman. You have to get her eventually to wild shamans who really, because she's very respectful. She can do ceremony, Lucia. So can you, Lorena, but she can do it in a way that if she thinks it's going to get a result.
Mm-hmm. I think Lucia's like, even when we teach, to me, it's like, wow, she has a way with explaining things and bringing information forward that like, it just blows my mind sometimes. I'm in awe.
You write it down.
Yeah, I'm the organizer. I'm the organizer.
If I write it down, I mess it up. I can't.
No, you're not supposed to write it down, Lucy. Other people do that.
I need to write everything down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Lorena has to be a chronicle of her time because more things are happening than we realize.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great for other people. Well, Lucia, you're a doer.
Say more nice things about me. Go ahead.
You're active. And this is the life to finally really be emotional because you like to caretake people and you realize I caretake people all the time, they're going to drag me down with them.
Wait, what? I didn't get it.
If you just take care of people, they'll drag you down with them.
Oh, I'm
Even
really
though,
good at giving readings, and then I'm like, okay, done. I did my
yeah,
best for you. I can't be in charge of you anymore.
uh,
Whereas Lorena finds it a little bit
I
harder.
feel so connected to people, and I feel like I need to be on their journey with them. Not in an emotional, like where I'm taking on their pain or anything like that, because I don't feel that at all. To me, it's like I want to take care. Like I want to be a part of that
you do.
journey. I'm getting goosebumps just saying that. It's like,
That's weird that you say that because you feel like you want to take care, yet you still haven't decided if you want to be a mother.
yeah, there's moments that I
It's a
feel pulled in.
responsibility. It's a big
It's a big
responsibility.
responsibility. Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, more power comes with more responsibility. That's just the way life works.
Hmm.
I had to assume tremendous responsibility. I had 1,000 students. There's no way. You have to be responsible. They're calling you at all hours of the night
Yeah.
sometimes. And you're like, wow, my goodness, what happened? No, that you don't call me about. That you can call me about, okay? You
Yeah.
have to kind of show them, I'm not here to babysit you.
No, and
Yeah.
I don't feel that way at all. I think like even yesterday I got an emergency reading and I was like, yeah, I'm there. Like this time and it's
Take
like,
care, yeah. Take care of
yeah,
your own heart.
I do. I do. I don't feel, I don't want to say, I don't feel emotionally invested in that way. I just feel connected. I don't know how to explain it. It
Well,
fulfills me, gives me purpose.
certain sacred sites are awakening. And because they have specific shields, specific things over them, it is
Hmm.
interesting to visit them because it gives you a moment of clarity. It gives you a moment of, oh, now I see what's happening in the world. Now I see what's going on in me. And then you leave and you come back to your work.
Hmm.
Sometimes, and that's also a ritual. A ritual is that way because you do enough rituals and then all of a sudden there's the clarity. Could take a few.
Yeah.
And, then the spirits say, I want more offerings, more offerings. You think, oh God, how many offerings do I have to give? It's my house, like bizarre, but you do it because you realize that I have to eat, I have to take these things, so do they. And they don't ask for much. They ask for such little things like some whiskey or something.
Yeah.
People think, why do they need whiskey? They don't drink because they just inhale.
That reminds me of things that they do in Uruguay. I think it was Jimancha, the goddess of the ocean in
Oh,
Uruguay. It was
God.
in February. What
Yes.
February? I don't
It's
remember what
February, I
day.
think. Yeah.
Everyone creates like a little boat thingy, and they put the offerings, and you let it out. Now, if the ocean flips it over, she didn't accept it. You're not going to get what kind of you're looking for. If it goes out, it means she accepted it, and yeah, you're going to get
For
kind of
wealth and for
what you want.
abundance and for, the silver coins. But she's so lovely. Well, some people are just asking Yemonja once, but the idea is it's a practice that goes on all year,
Right.
Yeah.
of meeting her, of honoring, of listening. You learn to listen to spirit.
Have you ever gone to Uruguay and seen that? They do that in February, and you'll find beaches all around
Oh,
Uruguay in
Brazil
February.
too.
People dressed in white.
Only
And
in
a
Rio.
bunch.
Only in
Wow.
Rio, Réveillon Rio, which is
Yeah.
everybody's in white and they do it. That's big.
I did that. It was huge.
Yeah.
And beautiful. I
The
like,
hope. I love seeing the hope in everybody when they do it. Yeah.
and when people are united, it's much more powerful.
Yeah.
I'm a son of Oshun, so it's different for me. I have to go to waterfalls and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Call her, ay, Oshun. I do my thing.
Yeah.
And I love Oshun, no question. She is too beautiful and she's been fantastic in my life. She also gave me more luxuries than I could ever imagine. And I just thank her. I don't know why she wanted to give me that, but she did. And then she says to me, this leaf over here is luxury too. Why don't you sit in that leaf? So I sit in the leaf and, this is Oshun. She's quite amazing. And then, Ashasi, of course, I'm a son of Ashasi. So I like to be in nature. I like the trees. I'm a warrior of nature. And Oshasi, not as many people work with. And when he comes, you have to give him an altar in the middle of a tree. I used to work with the Shamanic Institute of Brazil, who I like very much. And mosquitoes used to come and bite me all over my body. So I had like elephantitis, and like you talked about how big your feet were. I was like giant from all these. I had never been to Brazil before, and here I'm teaching, and I didn't realize you have to put on like DEET everywhere. I was putting on like little citronella. And what happened after that is I became immune to lots of things like typhoid, and I can't imagine I started to build immunity. So I realized I needed to go through this as my initiation into Brazil.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that protected me whenever I went into the jungle afterwards, the rainforest. Because the rainforest, there's so much in there. I was sitting on a log and I had no idea. My friend said, "You cannot move." Why? There's an anaconda right beneath you.
Oh my God, I would die.
oh, no.
Violent. And I looked down and you could see it, moving. And it was just wrapping around the same tree I was on.
Oh my gosh.
But it was just going underneath. And I got the skin.
Oh, you did?
So
Oh, you
that
did?
was,
Oh,
that was the most wonderful moment. I wore it for a long time, then it dries out, unfortunately. You have to keep it in the refrigerator. But, I wore it for a long time. And I used to visit the Indians, and all the Indians have different animals, like they were the cat people. I really, I like cats.
Oh my God, I feel like I want to watch a documentary about your life. Like,
the Maranunas. They're a tribe with whiskers. They actually indent whiskers, and they look like cats. And you
that's
go
so
to visit
cool.
them, and they do ceremonies for cats.
oh my God. Can I live there forever?
Fascinating.
I
In the
love
middle of the
cats.
rainforest. And it takes hours to get to them. And then you finally get there, and there they are, the cat people.
That's in Brazil?
Brazil.
Mhm.
And it's
Crazy.
near Iquitos. You have to take the Arapa River and you have to keep going. I'm not a big ayahuasca person. I did it for quite a long time. I would never do it now, but it helped me. I was too open anyway with my sight, and it opened it even more. And that was my first experience with insects, praying mantises and insects. So all of a sudden, I was on ayahuasca, and there was a giant insect in front of me, like really tall.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it invited me to its house. So I'm talking to an insect, that sound, and they're talking, and I can understand. But it's bizarre. I'm talking to this insect. They're all talking to each other. And I went to their house, which was modern, like really modern and beautiful. And I lived, having like a meal with these insects, sitting in the living room. And they're very intelligent, super intelligent. And then the praying mantis people, it just kept going. This was my ayahuasca experiences.
Yeah.
And the profundity of it all was, it changed me because I was constantly seeing diagrams in fire. Like they would be in like little squares, and you would see symbols and images with fire all around them. And you would see letters, all the different letters with fire, and you would see dioramas, one after another. And this is how you would remember. And I realized it was an indigenous language.
Oh, wow.
And I would spend many, many ayahuasca things just analyzing them, trying to write it down, trying to bring back, because then later I wanted to control the experience more. And you see parts of yourself, I used to see my face melting off, and you see terrible things. You go into your shadow.
Do you feel fear when you go through those things?
Yes, definitely. I went terrible through. I mean, the roof blew off, and so many things happen on ayahuasca, and you're like way out there. So whenever it got to be too much, I had kind of my safe zone, which was, let's swim with the dolphins. That was my safe zone. I'm going back to the dolphins. I don't want to keep doing this. You can decide. I want to swim with the dolphins again.
I was a dolphin trainer. I don't know if you knew that.
You were? Oh.
Yeah.
They give you so much.
They're amazing. They're amazing. I mean, I had to leave. I thought it was going to be, I thought they were like cute dolphins in the beginning. And I thought that, it was a good place. And then after being there for 6 months, I started realizing that the storyline behind how they got there was not true. And they were making me as a trainer lie about them. They were bought, right? And they were taken from, put into captivity. And I spent a longer time there because as a trainer, you have a dolphin you're in charge of, like the health, and you take care of them and you work with them. And I was 30 years old at the time, and my dolphin Luna was 30 years old at the time. We were the old ladies of the group. And I just kept not leaving because I was like, I don't want to leave her alone because I don't know what trainer she's going to get. And I tried to give her like a soft life because it was like they would have to do a lot of working. To do jumps and give rides to people. And sometimes there's people that are very overweight and this dolphin has to carry them and 20 people sometimes. And so I would kind of make things as easy as I could for her when I didn't have to give swims to people. And I was like, I don't know if the next trainer is going to do the same thing. but it just got to a point where I couldn't.
Emotionally.
I was so upset. Yeah. And she kept having babies, and she would throw them against the edge of it's like a cement pool kind of thing to kill them. And I think
Oh,
they gave her drugs saying that she's going crazy. And I'm like, she's not fucking crazy. She doesn't want her child to be, that she knows what life the child's going to have.
They're
But
so smart.
They are, but I was considered crazy for believing that, of course.
Yeah. In the end, the inception of a business, do you understand how it starts? Will run through the whole business. And someone like you, Lucia, a real spiritual person is a revealer. So you figured out what the inception was, where they had done it wrong from the beginning. And then that frequency, that vibration you couldn't stay in.
Yeah.
And neither could the dolphin, because it's telling you, it's revealing everything to you.
Yeah.
You can't save everybody, Lucia. I mean, you could have set the dolphin free, one night in the jail.
Jump over.
That is you too. It's
I
your
wish.
little yeah.
That reminds me of what's it? Free Willy?
Free Willy.
Oh my God, I totally would have done that. I would have gone to jail. I don't care, for 5 years if I had to. But yeah.
Well, we had that, Peter. I lived in Mexico, and people just chained their dogs. They never take them for a walk.
I don't understand that.
That shocked me. So this dog was howling, and I would try to feed it. It was cowering. So finally, after a few months, I called Peter, and I said, listen, you got to rescue a dog. They came in the middle of the night. Dog didn't know how to walk, had never walked very much. It was always chained.
God.
No.
So they had to carry it to the car, and they had to muffle it, so it can't scream. And they took it to, play in the mountains with another dog. And that dog is now free and whatever. And so the owner came to my door. You know what happened to my dog? So that's when you lie and you say, oh,
I have no idea.
You had a dog? I had no idea you had a dog.
Yeah. And, they have no concept that they were abusing the dog. And he was just crying that he didn't have his dog.
Oh my.
But you never treated it with care. No one ever taught you. You see, this is part of the education.
Yes.
You have to show people, because they might feel it, but they're not, for us, they're not living quite in a very sacred way. And I'm really honoring that dog. A lot of people like to have fun, whatever. I'm kind of a tough shaman. When I lived with the Indians, they're always playing like football and soccer, they're playing something, and they're always having games, and that's great. It wasn't for me. I really like to just hang out with the star people, and I was always like that. Give me serious, and I'll do it. And I realized that because a lot of my friends who came, I used to bring people with me and said they all play soccer, so you can all play football together. And I will go, with these people to the sacred cave, right? They always have an entrance to the inner world. Most tribes will have an entrance. They take me to the sacred lake. And there they do all sorts of ceremonies, and they don't want anybody else in that lake. That's their sacred lake. Many things happen there, and that's where many extraterrestrials come down. And then they mate with them. They have like sexual experience.
Oh, wow.
And then they have the next chief. So I was initiated into all their different practices. And it's much more than you imagine. It's much more organized. And they learn it all from the ETs, not from people. And then they keep it, from all the record keepers of their tribes. The people keep all the records, and the sun keepers. And I grew to love them. But again, you must speak the language. And here, at least in the US, most of them are learning English. So I can actually speak to them. But you lose so much if you don't speak their language.
Of course, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I knew people who came to tribes, who lived with them, who learned the language within like 3 years, everything. And they had mastered all the ceremonies in 3 years. And then you realize this is somebody else.
Yeah.
Somebody who came specifically to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You can't compare yourself to those people. They're on a mission. Yeah. And now, everything you do, all your readings, all the transformations you're going through, that's also for your families. Because as you evolve, that you are transforming your families.
Yeah.
You're transforming lineages in huge ways. You can't imagine it. It's all service, your whole life is service. And it's a re-education of them.
I'm coming off a little bit off topic here, but you were
Yes.
just talking about, like, that reminds me of the aspect of sexuality. I find that there's an issue where you'll have people that are over sexual and then the people that'll be under sexual. And I think, and we've always been wanting to get someone on the podcast to talk about sexuality and spirituality, right? Because to us,
Yeah.
it's super aligned. Like, I mean, the orgasm, it's like, it's an energy. It's so powerful. Can you kind of like, is there any experience you have or any information you can give us about
Breathing
those
and
things?
intention. Oh yeah, breathing and intention with orgasms. First of all, what you do is you build yourself up to an orgasm, okay, and you don't do it first time. Second time, I'm talking about the male version now, but a woman can do it
Yeah.
inside of us. Second time, you build up the orgasm, and then you don't orgasm. You just before you orgasm, you shut it down.
It's like tantric.
You have to do that. It's tantric. Everybody does this. Third time, again, you build it all the way up, and then with an intention, what do you want? You can only focus on your intention during the orgasm. You don't focus on the good feeling only. You
Okay.
focus on what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want a new car? That's the basic stuff. Or
A cabin in the middle of nowhere, away from people.
yeah. Do you want a new home do you want an advancement in your practice? Do you want to open up? Do you want to have an ancient book come to you? Whatever. I love those things. And so you then orgasm only thinking about that. That's the one-sided. So you're building up your whole life to be able to focus in an orgasm only on that. And then when the orgasm happens, you're feeling it and you're only thinking of that one thing, like a one-minded thing.
Yeah.
Some people make a sigil for that. Some people put it on their hand, and then they put the sperm or whatever, or they put it on the sigil, and then it charges the sigil. So the orgasm.
Oh, it's like the energy's in it.
Yes, and that will then multiply, and that's an incredible offering.
Oh wow!
People do that all the time.
I didn't know
women
that.
do that. Yeah, I don't know many women. I'm always telling them to put the menstrual fluid here.
Wait, a little
Yes.
detail. Does it have to be with someone, or can I do it alone?
No, it's all alone. I believe it's all alone.
Totally alone.
I do it alone. I do it all alone. And when you've mastered all that, then you go to the next practice, is how to move it up your spine. You have to move orgasm up your spine, which is another kind of orgasm. That takes a long time though. But everything you do with intention, with breathing practices, really has a tremendous impact. On Beltane, if you have sex and you're building it up in this way, you could get pregnant with a star child.
Oh wow!
But there are also certain times of the year where it's really open for a star child to come in, or the star child tells you when to have sex and when to get pregnant. So there are ways to do it. I love to talk to children in the womb. I think, Lorena, that's what you should do. You should talk to your child. You should have a water birth, definitely. You should birth it in water. I think you want to do something really alternative, and you want to document it. The conversations with your unborn child.
There's this book I think a lot of people talk about. It's like Spirit Baby or something.
Oh yeah,
I've heard a lot of good. Is it maybe that's kind of the same concept of connecting?
I mean, look at Lucia. She watched this dolphin not wanting to give birth to these children and all its pain, and part of that goes into Lucia, so that when she gives birth, she releases that for a dolphin. You see, we have to constantly clear out the subconscious mind from all our experiences. Otherwise, we're going to help some dolphin or some other person while we're giving birth. Like, it becomes karmic for us.
Wow.
We take on the karmas of others, even animals, especially certain conditions.
What is your opinion when, like, for example, I was carrying twins, and then one of them didn't make it, and then so one did, which was Aurora. And I remember being at the doctor and I was just confirming that I was pregnant. I already knew it. And then I took a test and I went, and we were able to hear the heartbeat. And he said, "Oh, well, right here, it's dematerializing. You had twins." And I remember feeling all of a sudden, so upset, like so sad. And I had a feeling I was pregnant with twins. And the doctor said, "Oh, it's only 6 weeks. It's no big deal. Okay, let's move on." I was like, he just totally tried to turn off my feelings. Like, he wouldn't even let it happen in his, office.
The other twin gave its power to Aurora to survive. It gives its power to Aurora. That's part of its sacrifice. Just as when you gave birth, you helped the dolphin children.
I felt that
that's
because Aurora has a lot of energy.
Aurora is also the name of the most extraterrestrial visitations in Uruguay, the town of
This
Aurora.
is true. I found out about this like last week. I didn't know.
So Aurora is a portal. You're saying, I'm giving birth to a girl, and she's from the stars, because Auroras are from the stars, and she's a portal. Because Aurora in Uruguay is the portal. It's one of the portals.
Wow.
Wow,
Do you
crazy.
think Aurora's taken on some of that emotional stuff from that, maybe that other being,
Or strength
or
from that
strength,
other
maybe?
person? Because
She's
Aurora's
super
the one that
sensitive.
survived. Yeah, the other one
She's Pisces.
gave the power to the other
Yeah.
child. That's amazing. It means that the other child is not dead. It's helping Aurora. It's on the other side, has its life. But it wanted to come to help Aurora.
It's almost like a spiritual partner.
Aurora already has a helper. Yes, she has a helper. That means that's going to happen all her life. She's going to be influenced by that helper. Twin.
Yeah.
Don't think the twin isn't going to help her. It's going to help her. Different, to learn her lessons. We all choose a life plan, and then you have to live your lessons. And the lessons, quite difficult, right? They're not so easy, and you have to go through them. You can't all of a sudden say, "Oh, I know this lesson's coming. I'm going to avoid it."
No.
I know some of your games. I know some. Lorena has some games. Believe me, she knows what's coming.
Oh my God, yes. Lorena avoids it till like life says, "That's it. I'm doing it for you."
Yeah.
I was watching her little timelines. How she likes to. You can't do that. Like Lucia knows. I gotta go through this.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm gonna avoid this. Lucia.
I'm more like let's get this done. All right, I'm out.
I'm like, let me just stall and see if I can avoid this.
Yes.
Yes, bless Lucia, something you don't have to do. You overdo it. But you did great. You did great. I'm watching you. But Lorena is like, oh no, I'm gonna timelines. There you go. You like to skip timelines. Oh no, I'm gonna take this timeline. It's gonna come and bite you in the ass.
I know.
Oh, that makes me laugh so much. I've been fighting this with my sister since my entire life.
But look, this is a different attitude. Lucia's attitude is, let's go, gung ho, and let's do it because I can't avoid it.
Yeah.
And the sooner I get it done, the sooner I can enjoy life again. That's kind of how I'm. Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's move through. Let's not avoid. Okay, what do I do with this obstacle? I can examine it. Come on, I kick it out of the way. Or I go around it.
Totally, Lucia.
Yeah. And Lorena, you have to realize that this sensitivity to skipping a timeline is also your power of working with subtle energies. You see, it's another way in which you use subtle energies, and you like to play with them. Skip the timeline. That's very subtle. Let's get deeper. Let's find out what's really in their throat. Let's, be careful that you don't take on others' entities, though, because some entities are furry. I hate to say
furry.
Yeah, or hairy.
Hairy.
And furry. And I would definitely not. They're cute. Get rid of those entities. So then they create molds in the body. They create different things. So you have to make sure these things don't stay. Because people have those. They have attachments. Because they got involved in the astral world, something jumped on them. They're not protected.
Okay. So how do I protect myself? Or how does anybody protect themselves?
You always cast a circle around you. You can do it any way you want. There's the Hecate circle. You can do Michael to my right, my left, Raphael in front of me, Gabriel behind me.
Yeah.
I love the Kabbalistic cross, Ate, Malkut, Vegebura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. It's a whole ritual of protection. I like
Did you guys create a hermetic class at all?
Oh yeah, we create all these. Yes.
Is that also on the?
I have a video, only protection.
I'm going to do that. Okay.
Yeah, we need to do it.
Square on your door. How to do that? It's everything. Yeah. What do you put on the door? What do you put inside the house? What do you bury? How do you want to make? Then you can make servitors that protect you. Servitors are like, I have little statues in front of my house, and I create a thought form and put it inside the statue. Wow. And I teach you how to do that in a video of the servitors.
Oh, I love
that. And this
is
how you make the servitor, and this is how you put it in the statue. It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
This is shamanism and magic. We create little beings, and we say, now you have to ward the house. You're a part of my energy. I created something out of myself to always ward. And they create wards and they create things, and then they have a life of their own. You have to feed them. You just have to feed them with attention. Some of them, you have to decide, are they made from earth, air, fire, or water? Because I make them out of elementals. Now, the way we make servitors is also from the fairies and elves, because they taught us how to make servitors, because fairies and elves make their own servitors. They have little servants that work for them, that are parts of them. And they create beings. So we learned how to create beings with them. There is an old occultist named Osmond Spare, Scott Spare, who created servitors, and that's the way everybody does it. So we do it a different way. We do it through the fairies and elves.
I like that.
And I have it all outlined there. So you just use the symbols. We did it as A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We made it easy for everybody to create servitors.
Wow, I didn't know you guys had this much stuff.
Yeah, no, I had no clue. So I definitely need to look it up.
We'll need to contact your secretary to get all of the info, so we can make sure people have that.
Added to
have
the
access
episode.
to it.
I'm a shaman who's giving it all away. I'm teaching everything. I always say to Christos, I don't feel like coming back here to this planet. I've done my time, not that much, but I've done my time, and I would like to. If I'm going to come back here, I'll be of service, but I want to give it all away now. He looks at me because he always keeps coming back. Christos.
Yeah.
Endlessly. He's been here forever.
I feel like he has. Yeah, definitely.
He's much older. I like being with somebody that much older. I watch Christos. How kind he is to people. Well, before I met him, I was always doing little things like in the grocery. I love grocery stores because I can help people with their bags, or I'm kind of that person. Not as a do-gooder, just in the moment, am I awake enough to help somebody?
I know. I feel the same way when I'm in places like that.
But he is rushing downstairs to help somebody bring their luggage up in a hotel, and I don't see it. He sees it. He sees things, I don't see.
Aww.
And I see him like darting off and doing something. And like animals too, he's darting off, and he's quite skillful. He'll catch the bird that's falling. Just in a moment through intuition. I was on an airplane that was going down. I don't know if I told you that. I was booked on that.
I think I heard something.
Barcelona. Yeah. And
yes, yeah. Okay.
And I didn't feel good about the flight, nothing. And Crystal's finally said, you don't feel good about this flight. I don't feel good about this flight. Let's cancel it. So we canceled the flight. And that was only less than 24 hours. So I lost that money. And then we got another flight for more money. And I went and met him in Germany. And that's the pilot that went down in the Alps, Barcelona to Düsseldorf. And
do you think your energy on the airplane would have helped the scenario though?
Yes, but I didn't want to die or whatever. I knew that something was wrong, like he was crazy. Yeah. And these people, on some level, many people sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
Mental illness. Mm-hmm. Another time, Crystal's lost control of the car, and it went to the barrier. On the Autobahn at like 70 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, okay, we're going to die. We're going to die. And that was the greatest peace ever in our whole lives. The angel, the spirits, everybody came. And then you just know you're not going to die. 1 inch from the barrier, the car shut off. He was so happy. Christos was so upset. And I was like, no, let me drive.
I love the way you guys talk about each other.
Yeah, I think that's so sweet.
Like, it's just so nice to see.
Well, I admire him. I think in a partner, you should look up to your partner. He has proven to me over and over again. He decides to cook, and then he masters cooking. Yeah?
Sorry, my dog.
Well, I love him. And then, he's agreeing with me. So then, and then I watch him do different things around the house. Like how he masters this or how he masters that all day long. And even when he's incredibly lazy, I'm tough on him. I'm tough on people when they're really lazy. But I realize he needs that. He needs that rest. Mm-hmm. He's resting more than he ever has. He's never slept this much in his life. So he's healing something. You compensate, Lorena, people. You have to compensate. You have to balance people, too, when you live with them. You have that unconditional love for them no matter what they do. And you have to have a commitment, even if it's mental, and you can't always feel it all the time. Like I told you, I'm not necessarily so monogamous. I don't always feel it, but I'm not going to do it. I have enough willpower to say no and say yes to what is a good experience, not for me or what, or to bring me deeper into myself to face, you know, I spend a lot of time facing darkness in myself, facing everything because we're human beings. It's part of it, right? And you see tragedies, you see things, and then you transform it in you and you turn it, that's the transmutation process into available energy you'll need later.
So how do you,
And you do that. You do that by working on.
If there's something that's inside of you that you consider a dark part of you, how do you go through the process? Well, like you look at it,
I meet it.
You what?
I objectify it. I bring it out of me. I meet it. I objectify it. I bring it out of me. I face it. For instance, you take a candle. Let's take one thing. You take a candle. You go into a dark room, such as sunrise, and you're not allowed to fall asleep. You're not allowed to go to the bathroom. You can only stare at the candle.
Oh my God.
Not happening. I'm gonna fall asleep and.
Well, you prepare. You see, everything is preparation before a ritual. You go to the bathroom. You don't eat for 24 hours. You don't have to go.
Right.
And then finally, you're sitting in front of the candle and you can't stop. And you want to fall asleep. And just when you want to fall asleep, just when it's too much, all of a sudden the weird shadows all over the walls, the strange noises. Okay, these are thought forms. These are the things you created over your life. This is the darkness. Bizarre things. I mean, and the knockings and the whole thing.
Do you recognize those things you're seeing, or do you have to figure them out?
Well, it makes your skin crawl. Oh my God. Shadows everywhere, you feel them. You feel that, that they're you. That everything that happens here is me. And so by the morning, as long as I keep looking at the light, as long as I keep bringing the light, they're one and the same thing. I release the illusion. And then all of a sudden, it is dawn. You've been through hell. You've been through the whole thing. You're coasting. And then dawn. There's a tremendous peace.
Yeah.
You faced yourself. And I've done that in many ways, in a sweat lodge, in many things. I love sweat lodges. We release everything. Everybody releases it together. The things that happen. And when you're with some very good people, in a sweat lodge.
Oh, is that like the Temazcal in Mexico? Is it like that?
Yes, you go into a lodge like a woman's womb.
Yeah, I did it. I remember.
And you have, the fire pit where you've already blessed all the wood, and everybody has a prayer for each wood that they put in the fire. And there's a fire keeper, and everybody takes turns, and then you bring the fire in the lodge, and you pour herbs over it, and you do your blessings of north, south, east, and west. You call spirit. And what happened in all that, it's hot. I'm telling you, some of these are super hot. You have different rounds. You can leave during the rounds, you can stay.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, there was this moment when lights just filled it because everybody had nothing to really. All these spirits came as little lights, and the whole thing was just lit up, the whole sweat lodge. And the dots, they were like little sparks. Fantastic.
Wow.
Those are spirits. They're visiting you. And that's real. That's not something I made up.
No, of course not.
It's real. So all of you, it's good to believe. Whatever you believe becomes real for you. And Lorraine, what you believe. And your parents believe something completely different. So, it's hard in the subconscious to, in any way, extricate yourself from what your parents believed.
Yeah.
I love to teach Hecate rituals. Christos taught me amazing ones, where everything changed. And Hecate came, and then he said, I want to show you. So he photographed me. And there she was with her hand on me, or Hecate, walking around, Hecate staring at me, or whatever. And it was all my little interactions with Hecate. And she's lovely, with the dark hair. And she's, she comes older, young. She likes to change. And I grew to love her. I grew to know her. And her priestess, Medea, another witch, fantastic. She did incredible things. And just, they come sometimes. We used to have Santa, we had a house dedicated to Saint Lucia.
I remember the story. Yeah.
She came through the window, and we photographed her coming through the windows because they like doors, windows. Dead people sometimes knock. That means open the door for them.
Oh God!
If you want to.
Lorena would run away.
Like I'm gone. I'm bye.
It's the only time you'll see her hurry up.
She's very, very simple. Get used to it. You have to get used to it because they're around.
I know they're around.
We share the world. I make a circle around my house and I say, you can't come into the house anymore.
Yeah.
But you can come around here. Certainly a lot of souls are looking for ways to pass. So you always light a candle for them. I have lots of yellow candles for souls that are dead. And I look at the candle and I say to the soul, would you like to pass over to the other side? It's quite wonderful there. I have somebody here who can help you. I call an ancestor. And I have my own ancestral altar, with all the dead people on them. And so I say, if any of my ancestors want to help her too. And then I take them to the doorway. I make a doorway out of it. You make a giant doorway out of a candle. And then they walk through. And you feel it, that peace. Somebody's house and you have to do it. Then you say, okay, you can all leave at midnight, but I'm going to leave the candle here. Because, you go in your own time and you make peace with everybody. And they do. You give them a time limit. Always give them a time limit.
Yeah.
You have
to put your boundaries,
hours,
right?
You have 12 minutes.
You put up your boundaries and your limitations there because it's your energy too. And
they go. And then that's a wonderful gift. That's why, when you're with somebody who's just on their last breath, when they just die, it takes a lot out of you watching somebody die. But at the same time, when they die, the great release, when they've poured out everything to you, all their regrets, all the people they don't talk to, all the things in their lives they regret, they get it all out, and then they're at peace, and then you watch them die. That's a great gift. That opens doorways to the other side.
It's funny you say that because I always have discussions with people that are around me that I realize that they're on their phone too much or things like that. And I say, you're not going to regret when you're on your deathbed that you didn't answer that text message ASAP. You're going to regret that you're not paying attention to this conversation we're having dinner together or, whatever. I find that a lot of people get caught up in that system.
The
Most
media
of life,
and everything.
It's all distractions. You have to focus. Shamanism, oh my God, curanderas, you have to focus. You have to develop your gifts. You have to go into the lodge and you have to face each direction. Some of you become keepers of a direction. What happens when you become the keeper of the eastern door or the southern door?
Yep.
Then you really have a responsibility. You can't let in anything, and you have to come in, let in what is going to fulfill a prophecy or fulfill a promise or help a group of people for knowledge or intuition or help children. It's quite an incredible task. That's all coming for all of us. Don't think that's not going to be your future one day. You'll be given responsibilities that you can't imagine yet. Because the earth is so whacked out in a way. It's so imbalanced. And Mother Earth, in the end, she can get rid of human beings too. But she's invited you here to caretake this planet. And there are other ways to live. There are other ways to use technology that are incredibly, self-sustaining or enriching the planet too, that are not just distractions. They're not just the endless entertainment. Though I love it, I grew up with all those films, and all my friends are filmmakers and creative people. But in the end, I know what they're doing. It's like an endless advertisement.
Yeah,
it really is in the end, and it's a great distraction. We're constantly distracted by people that want our energy or whatever. It's a game. Yeah. You've learned the game. I think both of you. You've kind of learned. The Indians say the furniture will eat us alive. That's what they said in the 1930s. The furniture will eat us alive. And what that means is cell phones, televisions, all this new furniture will eat us alive. And that's what these elders saw. And when I'm on my cell phone too much or whatever, they'll say to me, "The furniture's eating your life."
I love that. I'm gonna remember that.
We were in New York City once, and this teacher I was with just turned to me and said, "Look at these people, like 30, 40% completely vacated.
Yep.
Somebody home,
Yeah.
nobody in there, just going about their daily lives. They're not there, Foster. And one day they'll be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And just like animals who vacate their bodies here, they go to the spirit world. They don't stay here. And when too many animals and trees are gone, you're going to be very lonely."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, some people are partially vacated, and some are almost completely gone now. And so there are entities there, and the entities are just having fun inside of a body because they don't know what to do. It's not their body.
Yeah.
And I see that when I'm walking. And I see sometimes, we saw an extraterrestrial in the US walking, and they don't have chakras. They're not like that. They're here to observe. There's quite a few of them. So they're shapeshifters. There's lots of kinds of shapeshifters, in shamanism. You have to learn all the different shapeshifters, because some of them, they like to be coyotes, or they like to be, they shapeshift to always do something, usually, I hate to say this, against somebody. If somebody's harmed somebody, if somebody's done something quite nasty, they'll shapeshift and teach them a lesson. Wow, you be careful of certain shapeshifters, because then if they're after you, you have to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Who did I, walk
Who did I kill?
Yes. And then you have to figure out, because shapeshifters, they can blow on you. They can blow things onto you. And then you have things inside of you.
What, like, what are they blowing?
Like a blow dart. Like a blow dart. Peru, it's a blow dart. There's a lot of them. There's some very nasty shamans in Peru that blow dart you. And then I would spend like a lot of time taking out these blow darts. I had a shaman who tried to piggyback into me.
I remember that story from the podcast. Yeah, that's scary.
And I learned, I had to have a group of people to get them out. You have to flood somebody with light. That can happen too. So you have to protect yourself. I can get very open with native peoples. But if I don't know somebody now, I kind of
protect yourself.
protect.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm in a big ceremony. I like to watch now. I have to say, I love to watch dances. I like to sit and just watch, because I want to tune into what planetary system they're dancing, because it lasts all day, sometimes. Yeah. I was on the Hopi reservation, and we picked up a hitchhiker. And I like to pick up hitchhikers on Hopi. I really love Hopi. And, it was a shaman. It was a medicine man. Of course, every time I picked up a hitchhiker, always a medicine man. Oh, wow. So I realized, okay, there's something to this. So we would talk about the medicine. They say very little. And then he said, "I'm going to a dance. You want to come?" Because I give them corn. My whole car is full of corn, because I'm always giving gifts of corn. That's what you do. You give corn. You give of your essence. And so he took me to the hummingbird dance of all dances.
Oh.
And so I sat there with this medicine man and his friends and watched the hummingbird dance as the girls came out in that hummingbird hair and the whole bull roars. And it just touched me so deeply. And that was the final straw of the hummingbirds. We have hummingbirds here. They come right up to us, we're sitting outside. They come. I love them.
I love that.
You go to love them. We have one lady here. She has like 20 hummingbird nests in her backyard.
Wow.
And so you just want to watch them, all day.
They are beautiful.
Because they connect to something greater.
Yeah,
I remember
see it.
Yeah, this shaman once told me the age of flowers is the fifth world. It's like hummingbirds with pollen. It's all pollen paths. And so they used to teach me how you take the pollen from the corn plant and how you put it, out as an offering for the spirits, and how they all love to pollinate the world, and they pollinate whatever you want, and you're like a hummingbird pollinating the world with good things, blessings and transformations, and also people to face themselves. Yeah. Don't think that shamanism is not to face your real self. Oh yeah.
That's how I see it, actually.
Oh, don't worry. Especially if you give them a plant substance, they really face themselves.
Oh yeah.
They want to kill you afterwards. One lady almost strangled me, she said. That was 24 hours of visions. I couldn't stop it. I said, well, now you have to learn to control your brain. And now you have to stop resisting and start actually going on the ride. And people were ready to kill me, So I stopped ayahuasca. It was too much for them.
Yeah, it's It's
So
crazy.
I quieted it down.
I don't feel
became much more
attracted to it. I never have been
Me
attracted to it
neither.
really.
and it can blow your system too. I know a lot of people damaged by other drugs, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't do the whole thing. You can only go so far because you have to release what they buried, what happened to their system. You know, certain systems went to sleep to protect them. Oh my God. The white buffalo teachings, my favorite teachings, is that recently, you know, all these white buffaloes are everywhere now. You know, they came up in different people's backyards, physical white buffaloes.
Oh yeah.
In Egypt, we talk about the goddess, you know, Nut and many goddesses, Isis, you know, wearing cow horns. You know, it's because of the Milky Way galaxy. It's the great cow. It's the nurturing Gaia feminine galaxy we're in. And we all travel through the Milky Way. That's our stairway. So what I love is that, you know, one day this Native American was telling me, it's not cows, Foster, here. It's buffalo. They're buffalo women. And they're wearing the buffalo horns. And that's this white buffalo calf woman. And the prophecy is that, you know, when she returns, you'll see the white buffaloes. And they genetically realize they're not albino buffaloes. They're not like, you know, how once in a while they're albino. No, they're actually the white buffaloes, not albinos. And that touched me so deeply. And I started to tell everybody the white buffalo story of how, you know, she came, she was, you know, she's an Atlantean, let's be honest. But she came to the Indians and she brought the sacred pipe and she brought, you know, she had really studied them. She had really loved them. And she brought them, you know, she said, women shouldn't be walking behind a man. They should be equal. They should appreciate each other. They should appreciate what each other is doing. You know, we have to be reminded of that. They were forgetting all that. There was no animals. You have to understand. They were starving. And so she brought the buffalo to eat as well. And she became the buffalo. And she showed them as a woman, beautiful woman. You know, the first man came after her and wanted to have sex with her. And so she turned him into like a pillar of salt. You know what I mean? Don't come with the wrong intention.
Right.
See, now you're getting into sexuality. First comes the honoring, the respect. The other man respected her. And then he brought her eventually the next day to the village. You know, he was integral to that. And then she came and she gave this teaching. They were all ready for her. And she taught about the children and taught about, you know, the sacred pipe and how to do the songs. She brought everything that I love in Native American culture. Even the sun dance, which is incredibly profound, where they, you know, they rip flesh from themselves. If you're asked to dance, you better just do it. Because it's one of the most incredible things you prepare all your life for, really. And then you do the dance and you're ripping flesh and everything from your...
Oh, that sounds awful.
All for the sun, all for the sacrifice, for all people. You do it for all people to the sun. And I understand that. You know, I don't think that we have to do the whole Jesus thing on a cross and be martyrs anymore. I don't think this is the time to be martyrs. Yeah. Though I know people are still martyrs in Africa, especially if you're a witch or gay, you know, they martyr you. Yeah. If you're transgender, anywhere in the world, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And these kind of people, like transgender people, I think very much, you know, they are very fearless what they're doing.
Yes.
It's actually changing things here. And that's quite a profound, something you would understand, Lucia. It's really, I would say, a warrior path.
Yeah, you gotta be ready to take whatever someone's got to throw at you. It's not easy.
Because they're constantly being killed.
And going in a completely different path.
Yeah. And they show themselves to you. You know, you meet them and you say, oh, you're transgender. I got it. Beautiful what you are. Let's celebrate it. You're two sexes. You're, you know, we call it bardash. And let's work with your spirituality. Let me tell you about the hermaphrodites. Let's honor you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
I think the biggest issue we have is we need to label everything. Everything needs to go in a box.
Yep.
And that's what creates issues.
You start to accept everyone. Oh my goodness. In my school, like there was no black people in the whole school, no African Americans. It was terrible. And so the one black kid in our school I wanted to befriend. People looked at me like, what are you doing? We don't befriend those people. Are you crazy? But that's America was very racist when I was growing up. And then the minute I went to college, I said, I want black friends. I told my father, I want black friends. I want to have friends who are African American. And that brought me to voodoo, because I said,
Right.
no more do I want all my white people in my life. Forget it. It's imbalanced. And now I have tons of students. I'm getting students from Singapore, from China. I have all these Chinese people now. And so I'm starting to try to teach them their old ways, the shamanism of the Taoists, the old kings and the shamans that were in China.
That's cool.
And what they taught. And then Christus and I started to teach all the different Greek gods. So how do you do, what do they like as offerings? How can you meet them? What rituals you can do for Greek gods? Oh, it's fantastic. And so we created a divination, set that we use to communicate through the letters of ancient Greek to the different deities, so that you can do divination. There's lots of divination.
Wow, so much. You guys have so much.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. My God, thank you so much for sharing all of your
we've been
wisdom.
on, I don't know how long we've been with you, but for hours.
Yeah, we've been on for over 2 hours, I think. Yeah, because we got on at like 2 and it's 4:30 here.
But before we go, I just wanna get in maybe your perspective on how best for people to go that are listening to go forward from today on for whatever might be coming, for them to best align themselves or handle whatever life has to throw at us.
Well, things are opening this summer. So this is a summer where you still have to be conscientious. You still have to care how you are with other people. We've all learned now how to be more antiseptic, how to be in our energy too. And the people who have not learned that may never learn it. And so they're dirty, and no one's ever really explained to them how to be clean. That's one of the first things in spirituality. You must be clean enough. Even if you sleep on a dirt floor, it doesn't matter to me. And then the next thing is to come out with realizing that now that you're coming out of a cocoon like a bear, after hibernation, and you're birthing something new, you must think differently. You have to think outside of a box, like you were saying. You have to come out. Maybe there's a new way to do my work. Maybe there's new work for me. Maybe it's more on the internet. Maybe I'm going to be home more. Maybe I'm going to be more with my children than I ever have been. And I don't want it any other way. A lot of people got exposed too while they were in hibernation, because we got to see what they were really doing before that. and you see, maybe I want to change the direction of my life. Maybe I want to meditate. Maybe I want to spend more time, just doing active meditation or something good for myself. Because you do something good for yourself. The whole idea of finding yourself, it's not just the dark things, right? It's also to accept everything that you are. Just to accept you as you are. Like I accepted Lucia exactly the way she is. Because she's right there in your face, with it. And I'm going to keep running. That's her. I'm going to keep running. Towards the dawn. And Lorena, with all your fears and everything you do, you are connected to like the spiders and all these things too. You like all those little insects and all those fun things. You're connected to quite really unusual beings, and you're an unusual person. So the more you embrace how unusual, and not to be afraid that you're going to die, because if you've passed through this, you're not dying.
Yeah.
And if people have died, it's because they wanted to. It was time. They couldn't make it.
Yep.
And yes, it's true. They definitely got rid of a lot of the population with these terrible things that they create in laboratories that animals then amplify. Because they don't know.
Do you think we'll ever see justice to those things that were done? No.
Justice? Yes. And when we enter the fifth world, that's all justice. Everything gets corrected. Everything gets exposed. All the insanity they've done with cloning, with everything. There's a lot going on the earth,
Yeah.
And there's a lot that's hidden. It's a lot hidden.
I binge watched Gaia.
Yeah, there's a lot of terrible things going on.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you have to trust spirit. You have to trust these ancestors, whoever you want to do it. I don't care actually what you believe in. I'm not a big believer in Yahweh. Yahweh is not for me. But El Elyon, yes, I love them. I follow, certain spirits because I know they're not destructive.
When you say ancestors, you're talking about the ancestors of like humankind, or the specific body of the person in this lifetime?
All of it. It can be your ancestors that are you in past lives. Ancestors can be also the people in your family. A lot of people have deep connections to their family.
Mm-hmm.
And third can be ancestors from the stars. Your star ancestors, because you come from the stars. I come from Delphinus. Crystals comes from Orion. There's a way to calculate it. Did you know that? It's so tedious.
No.
You don't want to do it. It's very tedious. But in the end, you find out where you come from. You can do that anyway by meeting the star woman or star man at a stargate. Meaning you just, in a ritual, you ask the star woman to come. She's quite incredible when she comes. Just call her. She likes to come native. She wears a choker, with a star on it. She's quite amazing. And when you meet her, then you ask her to show you, how do I astral travel? How do I go to the stars? Or how do we meet my star brothers and sisters? And she slowly, takes her hand. She shows you the way. You go across the void too with her. And she shows you the void and how there's so much life inside of the void before creation. If people are on the fence of should I do this or not, it's time to get off the fence now. Now is the time. You're either on this path or you're not. And I know people think we're crazy that we're on this path, but it's a harvest. Those that made it, you're going to make it. And those that didn't make it, it's rock and roll time. They're going to be faced with their deepest fears.
Amen.
And all at once, and too much, and can lead to a terrible war.
Yeah.
And if you don't want this war to happen in a sacred way, we're starting to live where everything is sacred, every person respect. Of course, you start with respect. Even at the grocery store. I went to many grocery stores and people looked terrible to me. They were like the cashiers, everybody. And they were always like terrified to speak English in South America. And, I tried to speak Spanish. And then my Spanish is so terrible, they don't get it. And then we're sitting there and I have to make them laugh. I have to find some way to break the ice because I need them to have a different kind of day. I need to shift the energy in the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's what I hate to say. It's the little things.
I agree.
That's what I noticed when I had my own near-death experience. It's all the little things I noticed. I thought I'm going to review the big things. No, you reviewed very little interchanges with people. Little things you said to your daughter, little things you said to some total stranger you forgot. Little things you couldn't imagine what you did that were kind of nice as a kid instead of stealing somebody's toys. Eventually you pray people will have a transformation. They stop stealing each other's toys. But some people never stop.
Yeah.
And then you say eventually, okay, you're not going to the next world. And that's what you have to kind of tell people. You're not going to come with us into this greater consciousness. For us, so easy. It's not going to be even hard for us. Lorena, it's going to be like, oh, the next world. You know what I mean? Like, oh, fourth dimension time. Oh, there's no time. Well, I didn't feel like time really existed anyway. That's going to be you, believe me. And everybody else is going to be like, oh, what's happening? The whole world is falling apart.
Oh my gosh.
It's total chaos. And that's what we just went through. Things didn't go as people planned. People were controlled by, whatever, government, whatever. But the idea was you felt you're not in control. There's something around. There's these beginning of these viruses, which can be much worse. It could have been Ebola. Come on. And it wasn't. So we are protected. A lot of people are protected. But you really need to learn how to create protection. You really need to learn to work with this. You really kind of need to evolve now. You don't evolve, well, this is not your planet.
No, I agree. We feel the same way. And we say that message on the podcast all the time too. So
compassion is amazing.
Yeah.
It's not idiot compassion for everybody, but kind of compassionate to have justice or fight for what you believe in or not be afraid to tell the truth, or the compassion of, I hear your side. I hear that, all the born again Christians here, they go on and on about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And you just look at them like, okay, well, it's been translated 26 times and you're actually following the wrong God home. People look at me like, oh my God, you're such a heretic. Of course I am. Because I remember the original Christ teaching. I remember the Gnostics. I remember the early time. I remember Mary. That have impacted me so much. One day I will do a video only of what Mary really said and what her
I
teaching.
love that. Yeah.
And Christos will just do Mary's gospel. And Mary Magdalene, all her, she was incredibly intelligent. She was they were all women who empowered other women, like all the housekeepers who were being beaten by their husbands in those days. They were always transforming them. They were always empowering them to leave their husbands. That's why when you give it like a reading and you tell somebody, well, I think you should leave your husband, he's kind of beating you, and they look at you like, what? Or, he's cheating on you. I have readings where the husband comes, right?
Oh, gosh.
Because he's watching the wife. If you tell her I'm having an affair, and so you can't say anything, right? And then while they're leaving, you just whisper in her ear, and he's having an affair. Sometimes they say, for years.
They know.
Oh.
They know, and that's why they're at the reading. They're not there for the couple session.
Yeah.
He's there to make sure I don't spill the beans because he wants to hold on to it.
Wow.
And and eventually I'll expose it. Eventually I have to say it. I mean, the first reading is like intro.
It's kind of your job to say the truth, right?
Exactly, but the truth is not so easy, and most people don't want to hear the truth.
Most people don't. Yeah.
No.
Crystal's told this guy, he was like the Earl, very big guy in England, the nephew of the king, the queen, and he says, well, you're very bad in business. You'll never, all your business is going to fail.
Oh my God.
And it happened. So he didn't want to come back to crystals.
Of course.
Yeah.
But even just thinking of this, like the truth, people don't want to hear the truth. I think that's what's happening now. People don't want to see the truth. Even in this context, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crystals is amazing, talking about thought and how thoughts think, and they keep creating more thoughts, and you have to be in control of your thoughts, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's the Hermetic, great teaching. But when I see people like this, and you say the truth to them and they don't like you, like Reagan's press secretary came to me once. I've worked on a lot of famous people, and Reagan's press secretary, and I said it so truthfully, exactly what I thought was going on. And she said, this isn't resonating with me. I'm going to leave.
Oh, gosh.
And then she said to my secretary, and you know what? She was a friend of my secretary. And the secretary, she said, another reader said the same exact thing. But it's just not true.
Doesn't want to believe it.
Wow, denial.
She had a big center, big spiritual person, whatever. She was like the center because they had so much money. They built like a center to the goddess.
There is so much denial right now. It's insane.
It's always been there. How do you do it? Well, after a while, when born again Christians talk to me, I try to talk in their language. Because I can talk the Jesus language, not hard for me. I know the Bible in and out. I can quote. So I give them the nice start, and I bring them to a higher level. I remind them. Some of them are bipolar, they're almost on that border. They're borderline people. And you try to help them to elevate, because it's true. When people get together and they believe these things, you can do the healings that Jesus did. Of course you can. Of
course, yeah.
Look at the power of the mind. So let's work with that. I'm a shaman. Okay. Even though I don't believe anything you believe, to me, you're like really ignorant. Because I read the Bible, I know the real thing, and I know all the different tribes, from Canaanites, and I like the originals. I love the Nephilim. I'm a child of the Nephilim. Christos has the mark of Lilith. It's in his body. Any witch can see that because it's a real witch. Lilith marked him, which makes me so proud of him.
Oh,
because you'll always speak up for women. And that's what I did in my life. I told my father, you really have to treat my mother differently. You really have to honor her. She's a spiritual woman that can't live it. And she's never going to live it. When my mom died, this, I think I told you, this giant elk. It's a deer. It was actually a deer with the big antlers. It's called a stag. Came in Los Angeles in the middle of the city. And came to our garden. I didn't photograph it, but it came right up to us and said, your mother died.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And the phone rang, and they told me, my brother told me my mother died. And that was that's called the guardian of the forest. That all shamans know. That beautiful deer that they shot, when Diana died, Princess Diana, the big deer came and they shot it. That's the way they are. They're so violent. I'm not like that. You don't eat the deer and shoot it, but that's the old way, the Celtic way.
Yeah.
You acknowledge the. Thank you for the message. Thank you, Spirit of the Forest.
Yeah.
Thank you for the message. I am humbled, I will fall down on my knees and thank you. But I don't. I never exaggerate. I just thank you.
Yeah.
This is life. And I think the interaction with animals is probably the most magical.
It is.
Yeah.
I think this incredible thing with our kids, when they're little and so formable. It's amazing. You just kind of want to put the right things into them.
It's powerful.
It was amazing to me meeting this actress, the famous actress, having a reading. And I asked her, so do your children see your films? Oh, never. They don't watch TV. I don't allow them to.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Because her spiritual practice was no distractions. You do your work. It's my work. I play this on film. It's a great gift, but I know the impact on others.
Of course.
Mhm.
That's powerful. Wow, that's amazing.
But karmically, she believes it's a distractor, but that's her job.
Exactly. See the contradictions we all live by? Do you
Yeah.
see how hypocritical people are?
Mm-hmm.
And how can you have a job that doesn't hurt the planet? So you have to find things that really kind of help Mother Earth.
You have to
That's what
balance
you
it
do.
out.
You're actually doing that. You're doing that for your whole family for generations. People who really work and work hard and really care. No, I've watched extraterrestrials watch those people because they say, that's actually quite good what they're doing. It doesn't matter their job. It's just the way they're doing it. We used to talk about that snow. I don't know if you know what that is. When you look in somebody's aura and you're in an airport and all of a sudden you see snow on their aura, like
I've
all
never
over.
heard of
I've
it.
never heard that.
Most wonderful thing on earth, because that means that person, every single life, has always been good. It's always
Wow, you probably saw like a handful your entire life.
been, you don't see it that often.
Yeah.
And they're usually quite poor or whatever, but it's the snow. It's the first time you see the snow. Christus and I were walking in LA, and there was a little black girl, beautiful. She was maybe 13 and 12, 13. We were just walking behind her because the aura was so big.
Oh,
I mean, giant aura.
Oh wow.
We were just watching her. And finally, Christus turned to me and I looked at him and he said, future president of the United States. That's why she's here.
Oh,
Future president.
I love that.
So then we stopped following her. I mean, she must have thought, what are these guys following me? But we just were
Creepy.
watching the aura.
Yeah, these guys are following.
Because there's movies in the aura, and you see an illustrious being has come as a little black girl. And some people, they're so big on screen, whatever, and their aura is terrible.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, Lucia really sees that. She sees two people. She says, "Oh, you're talking bullshit." That's Lucia.
Oh my God, and it pisses me off.
And there are many of you now on Earth. There's so
Good.
many of you, like bullshit seekers. You're like, I know you're doing a false teaching because there's so many false teachers now. Look at the internet.
Oh, Lucia has a radar for that. It's crazy.
You know what ticks me off lately a lot? I call it la spirituality, where people think that you're supposed to sit here and manifest a great life all the time and never look at the dark, never look at. I think that's not helping other people.
Yeah, because when you die, you go through a bardo. Out of yourself, you create out of your mind all of the things that are unresolved in your life. You understand? All the bardo, all the regrets, everything turns into a bardo, and it can trap you. So the idea is go through the bardo while you're alive. Look at everything that entraps you. Look at every false belief you have. Look at all the things, all of a sudden you see, oh my God, I did such terrible things. So I have compassion for these people. But I have a boundary. It's all those things.
Yeah.
But you see it in yourself, and then you forgive yourself. This is the great self-love.
Yes.
It's not narcissism, right? It's just wholeness. The wholeness that creates the whole that you can travel with,
Yeah.
that you're connected to all these. I love to talk. I talked in my last video about all the different things, the stages of a shaman, how you become a healer, how you become this. There's stages, all the gifts that open. They're amazing gifts that can open. And they're normal, they're natural. Some people are born with them and some people develop them.
It's a process.
And this is the time for women. This is their empowerment. This is their leadership. This is the time when you want to really reach women and say, look what's inside of you.
No.
The adepts are looking for you. They're looking for somebody who's growing. Sometimes when you meet a really great astrologer and knows the stars, they can talk to you because
Yeah.
you can talk the star language. You can talk numbers. You can talk because they like to talk numbers. They like to talk geometry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you find that, I mean, I find it really hard to find men that are ready to
Mm.
accept spirituality, right?
I know. You're looking for a
It,
native person. That's what I would say. You're looking for somebody who comes from probably some spiritual background, like they were ancestors who were shamans or witches or priests or of their clans or whatever. You're looking for those people, and they killed most of those people. They killed off whole lineages. You've got to understand.
Wow.
The reason why those men don't exist is because they killed them. The
Mm.
protectors of witches, protectors of women.
Oh,
It's been a
speaking of
system.
that, I started watching The Witcher on Netflix, and I'm like, I love it.
Oh, I've never seen it. A distractor or no?
I
Lots
just
of
love all the
distractions.
witchy stuff in it. It's really good.
Because you see what you need to see. You understand? You see the wisdom in things. That's what you always see. You're only looking for the truth in everything. When you're watching a film, when
Of
you
course,
see
yeah.
beneath it. I would tell Christos everything I see beneath a film, and he'll say, "Oh, please shut up." I got it.
That's
But
me. That's me. Oh my gosh.
yeah, but I got the whole thing. I got the whole
Yeah.
vision. And then I was like, oh, sometimes I want to cry, in a film, because it's such a beautiful realization. And that's what film does.
Yeah.
It can bring up emotions like great art. Any kind of art can make you feel.
Yeah,
And there's
that's what I
nothing
love.
wrong with feeling the spirits, feeling the answers, feeling the love. This is what we all miss, is that camaraderie, that the clans, everybody helping each other.
Yeah.
That's what I think we are trying to create in the internet. And I do think that's the Aquarian age we are entering now.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's I think part of these broadcasts, it's like the warmth each other. I'm not just talking about myself and what happened. It's also the warmth in the community. When we share our stories or when we have something to share.
Yeah.
That's true.
That reminds me of what I got into lately, which is the Ubuntu movement. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed. I'm like talking to anybody that will listen to me about
What is
it.
that? What is
It's basically like well, first he talks to you about things that I already know, but I don't know if everybody, but they give it really quickly, like the banking system and the things that end up controlling you and limiting your life, and how obviously Gaia's abundant, and that if we were to create communities of 500 plus people, and we lived in communities would be Ubuntu, like a small, I think he calls them small town. The idea is that you live in abundance and there's no money and there's no barter. It's literally you put 3 hours of 3 hours of your own labor into something that you're good at, and then you have the rest of like the week to grow spiritually, do whatever it is that you enjoy and
It
love.
sounds like kind of like a tribal.
Well, that is the future.
Yeah.
That is what's
the future.
coming. It will come.
I hope so. This man's been pushing it for a while, and Michael Tellinger, I think his name is.
Yeah, we're so ahead of our time. That's why you're all ahead of your time. You see, you're already creating the future.
I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, where's there one in Holland around here? Anyone want to sign up with me?
I told Christos where I first wanted to move was you can buy a house now around a farm in the US. So the farm is in the center, so that all the kids and everybody get to see farm animals. They get to play in farms.
Oh, that's
they
awesome.
get all fresh produce, all organic. And then you live in one of the like 90 houses around the farm. And the farm is sustainable because all these 90 families are buying from the farm. But you still have to have jobs in town.
Yeah.
But the idea is, I wanted to live like that. I just feel like that's big.
And
it exists all around here, by the way.
And the idea is there's scientists, there's people that like are good at what they do.
A doctor.
Like real healing, right?
Yes.
No more big pharma. All that.
Good luck with that.
We did get vaccinated though, and it didn't affect us at all.
No.
We had the vaccination and Christos and I had taken homeopathy before and after. It didn't affect us. It was very little. We just felt a little like you couldn't lift your arm for one day, and then we looked inside. Is it really changing us? Are we getting magnetic or something? No, nothing happened. And then we researched it, the Modena, the people who do it, that they pray over the vaccine. And that they were the people who created the vaccine for AIDS. and that they had a breakthrough doing their vaccine for COVID to create one for AIDS.
I heard something about that. Yeah.
Imagine. And that totally touched us. And we started to research who created that vaccine, these Modena people, because that's the one we got. And we asked our guides, we only want the vaccine that's really good for us. Okay, the one that could actually help us. And then we found out that they pray that there's intention in it, just like the way we live our lives. And that's why we were attracted to it.
That's awesome.
Like when you like put intention on a glass of water and drink it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. You can do that with your food, anything, right?
Yeah.
Yes, with your sigils. You put it underneath the glass.
Yeah. Awesome.
Or you do the
All
cover of the cross on top of the glass and you make it holy water and you drink it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, it's
we
gonna
better
be 12
go.
o'clock here.
Well, we love you guys. We
Thank
like
you so
Yeah.
much. Oh my
I would
gosh,
spend another 3 hours, but I gotta go to sleep.
Okay.
I love sleeping. So
thank you so much.
Well, bless you. And keep a pad and paper, because probably there's some interesting genes with the dolphins. There's a specific star, Markov, that is just for dolphins and whale people. And it is a specific star for those who like, oceans and oceanography. There are stars for everyone. There are stars for meeting masters. So
Okay.
Lorena wants to always meet masters. She doesn't realize that she does.
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I love that.
And they're around her. And there are immortals on us. So bless you. The world is much more than we imagine.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and everybody. And yeah, we love talking to you guys and getting your views and stuff like that.
We hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And thanks again, Foster, for coming on here and to just be a part of this community and to help everybody kind of awaken and see things in a different perspective and light. We really appreciate you. Thank you for all the work that you've done. We're just over the moon and grateful for everything that you do and for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on here and just talk to everybody. So sending everybody a big hug, and we really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Send us your comments, your feedback on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys.